Chris in. All right. Good evening. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Are you able to hear me?
Yes. Want to make sure. Are you Chris?
I am. I'm Chris from A Precious Child.
Perfect. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for being here tonight. Appreciate your time. I'm gonna kind of give a quick overview of the night and what we're doing. Oh, here comes Crystal as well. I'm gonna get her. Um, so tonight we are holding hearings for human services funding. This is a public meeting as we have 3 board members present. Uh, I'm gonna let them introduce themselves in a second after you get to introduce yourself. So because it's a public meeting, this is being recorded and will be on the City of Longmont YouTube page at some point. Um, you're gonna get 15 minutes. We're gonna have 15 minutes of Q&A time from the board and staff to you.
Okay.
And then at the end, you'll have 5 minutes. Neither of us have to use all our time. So board
Okay.
doesn't have to use its 15 minutes, and you don't have to use your 5. If they don't have any questions, then that's fine. They just get their 15 minutes and you get your 5.
Okay.
With that said, I will let you introduce yourself quickly, who you are, who you're with, and then I will turn it over to the board and they can introduce themselves, and we will get started.
Awesome. My name is Chris Crack Wilson. I am the grants director to A Precious Child, and I am actually proud to say that I've been a Longmont resident for the past 30 years. And so hopefully, I'm joining you all sitting in our homes in Longmont.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Who wants to go first on the board?
I can go.
Thank you, Crystal.
Hi, my name is Crystal Prieto. I'm a board member with the City of Longmont Housing and Human Services. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Hello, I'm Alejandro Prieto, and I'm also a board member, second year on the board. And good evening.
Good evening.
Hey, Chris, nice to meet you. I'm Jeffrey Boring. This is my first year on the advisory board. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
All right, Christina.
Good evening, Chris. I'm Christina Pacheco. I am the Human Services Director for the city, and I work with Eliberto.
All right, and
Hello, nice to meet you.
I'm Eliberto Mendoza, Human Services Program Manager, and I help facilitate this process for the board and for Christina. And so I'm gonna go ahead and start the 15-minute timer and open it up for questions from the board and our staff.
May I?
Go ahead, Alma.
Cool. Well, Chris, would you just walk me through, let's say I'm a parent, I got a precious child. Help me, Chris.
Perfect. So if you are coming to A Precious Child, you have been referred to us by one of our agency partners with whom we hold MOUs to screen and facilitate the referral so that we know that we're working with families who are at least 300% below the federal poverty line and have children. And so once the family is referred to us, they schedule an appointment. They come to our Broomfield facility where they meet with our family advocate who will work with that family to do resource navigation and help them plan and create a plan for their points of instability, as well as create referrals for them as they help navigate all of the systems and opportunities and nonprofits that are available for them to help them on that plan for stability. And once a family has that meeting with the family advocates, then they're able to shop in our cost-free store, which we have set up very much like a department store. Our friends at TJ Maxx actually helped us create it and set it up. We also have staff and volunteers on the floor that help the families get all of the basic essentials that they need through the many departments that we have, as well as our food pantry. with their families are able to shop for everybody that lives within that household. And we have clothing, shoes, toys, books, home goods, hygiene supplies. Families with children under 3, they're able to get diapers as wipes and creams. And then they're also able to pick up enough culturally appropriate food staples that hopefully last them long enough so that they can move along to that food source partner and food source resources that we've helped them navigate to, as a way to mitigate some of the food insecurities that we're seeing in our communities that are struggling with crises or poverty. And then we also are able to refer families not only to outside agencies that we partner with, but we have 8 programs within our organization from cradle to career, where we look at those gaps that maybe these children in the family are experiencing, and hopefully we have those opportunities, such as setting them up with scholarships to be able to play sports, make sure that they have the backpacks that they need for school and all the supplies, opportunities if they need extra educational support such as tutoring, and then if we have older 15 to 24-year-olds who maybe are struggling with not doing super well in traditional school, maybe have dropped out or unable to find any type of employment, we can refer them into our workforce preparedness program.
So I have a follow-up question
Thank you.
to
Yeah.
Alejandro's question. Thank you.
Yeah.
You talked about they have been referred by MOU partners. Can you give me a brief list? I don't need them all, but I'd love to know, who are you working with? Who's referring to you from Longmont?
Great. We have about 7 partners up here in Longmont. We work with Housing and Human Services, as well as WIC, the People's Clinic, Parents as Teachers, Sanborn Elementary, Boulder County Nurse Family Partnership, and the Wild Plum Center. And the Wild Plum Center, we actually have a satellite resource center, which is basically a mini cost-free store in one of their smaller classrooms, where we are able to bring up our whatever essentials and goods that Christy, who we work with up there, decides that her families need. They manage how they distribute all of those goods to their families. Typically it's during pickup and drop off if they need the diapers or if they need extra clothing or baby goods, baby equipment and whatnot. Is basically we work with these SRCs to make sure that we have the supplies and equipment and essentials that is necessary for that specific population that we're helping.
Christina has a question.
Is Children, Youth, and Families, the youth center, still a referring partner?
Say that one again. I'm sorry, I missed it.
Is Children, Youth, and Families, the Longmont Youth Center, still a referring partner?
You know, we are in the process of bringing in partners. So we had a transition in 2024, and we're redoing all of our partnerships. So I believe that the Longmont Youth Center is part of the process that we're working with for the 2025 process, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, what changed in 2024 that they were not a referral agency?
What we realized is that over the year, we never really had a staff person dedicated to nurturing and managing and supporting our agency partners. And so last year, we were able to get enough funding so that we could bring in a person that could really manage the process of training how to get onto our referral system, because it's a completely online system and at times can be kind of confusing and tough. And in that process, it was really going through and reaching out to every one of our partners to say, hey, this is what we're doing. Would you like to partner with us again? Here are, this is the MOU, et cetera. And, I can't speak specifically, and I can follow this up after talking to my resource manager, whether or not what happened with the Longmont Youth Services, if they just didn't communicate. Sometimes when we don't have that consistent contact, our questioning and our reach out gets lost, and at times we just have to stop pursuing if we don't have the person. So I could follow up with an
Yeah.
email if you would
Yeah,
like
I
me
would
to.
appreciate, yeah, I'd
Okay.
appreciate that if you could follow back up with me. That's one of the divisions in our department. I'd like to know that. Thank you.
Crystal.
Yeah, for sure.
Hi, my question's just a little bit around like community need. What does the community need currently look like for you right now in Boulder County? And how does that look as far as like capacity? Are you guys able to meet that need? Are you are you needing more resources to meet a higher need? Are you stable as compared to the previous years? What does that look like?
I feel as we're seeing needs are continuing to grow. However, right after COVID, we saw 30%, when we were able to come out and, walk about in the world again, we saw a 30% increase in the demand for our services. And we worked really hard. We were able to get some funding to meet that demand. We are now seeing it, the increase in service demand is it's leveling off to about 10 to 20% growth in need every year. We are kind of experiencing a very unique situation at A Precious Child in that we have learned how to be very efficient in our empowerment resource center. So back 2 years ago, we were only able to see about 26 families. And now with efficiencies and redoing how we communicate between the store and the family services with our family advocates, we're able to see about 40 families, which is great in that really allows us to meet that need, that 10 to 20% growth. Where we're struggling is that we can physically do it, that the funding isn't matching that 10 to 20% growth, and nor is the in-kind donations that we really rely on for families. So not only do we have a large donation center that brings in over 247 tons of donated in-kind goods every year that we then sort through and process to make sure that we're putting the best and highest quality products out on the store floor. We also have partnerships with larger organizations, Kasha's Alliance, Amazon, the VF Corp, which has like North Face, and we do also work with Goods 360, where sometimes, overstock in through, Nikes and whatnot. So we do have a big stream, but our stream of donations and our stream of funding isn't matching the consistent 10 to 20% growth in need. And it's just, we all know the economy, the inflation is still high. So when families in poverty, like they're affected the most by inflation. We're seeing still a rising cost in housing, affordable housing, and because of that, our families are still struggling to really get their footing so that we can help create economic stability and mobility.
Thank you.
So I have
Any-
two questions.
Oh,
I
go
have
ahead.
two
Yeah.
questions. One, so you talked about serving 40 families currently or projected to serve. How many of those are Longmont families is my first question.
Mhm.
And my second question is what would happen, what would be the impact to your program if you were not funded at your full request or you were not funded at all? What would be the impact to Longmont families?
Sure. Last year in 2023, we served 686 residents in Longmont. Right now, let's see, my last number, what came in from the end of August for 2024, we are already on target to serve 10% more than the 686. So up a little over 700. I'm terrible at math in my head. I apologize.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, and so we don't charge families to shop We don't charge agency partners to work with us. We do not charge any agency partner to host a satellite resource center. So everything that we provide the Wild Plum Center, we do that at our own cost and expense, as well as when we do bulk distributions. And that's when we have large amounts of goods that we partner with. We recently did one with the homeless education program with State Brae Valley School District. We would have to curb back on some of those pieces where we're bringing our services up to the Longmont community. And just primarily continue to just work with the families who are able to get to down to our Broomfield facility. So that obviously, with us doing an SR satellite resource center and bulk distributions up here, we're able to also reach those families who have that time and transportation barrier.
Thank you.
Any more questions? All right, if not, I will go ahead and stop our timer, and you can start your 5 minutes now.
Great. Well, thank you. I mean, it was an honor, and it's a pleasure and a privilege to be able to speak to you about a precious child today. Obviously we believe in collaboration and partnerships, and part of that is a financial partnership so that we can continue to support the needs of families throughout the 8 counties that we are able to work with. We really do believe that when a family when they don't have to worry about the basics, and this is the core of our existence, in the sense of when families don't have to worry about the basics and they understand the resources that are available to them, they're better able to put their income, their limited income, toward more sustainable expenses, such as, housing, transportation, health and education, debt reduction, and savings, and hence improve their overall well-being. So as we continue to work with the communities that we serve, together, we're all making that difference. We're all taking that chunk, whatever it may be, whether it, providing the basic essentials, making sure that a kiddo gets to up here in Longmont gets the financial support to be able to go play in the Real Soccer Club, or that another kid can participate in one of the wonderful programs that St. Vrain puts on, the drone program. If there's expenses that can't be covered by the school, families can then apply to a precious child. So we really do work with, though we're asking for support for the Empowerment Resource Center programs for our family stability. Once a Longmont family is within our system, we are also providing them and referring them internally to our other cradle to career programs, as we want to continue to make sure that the whole child gets what they need in order to have that opportunity to be a self-sufficient, grow into being a self-sufficient community member, and then also rise themselves out and hopefully, break some of those cycles that multi-generational poverty perpetuate. And so I really thank you for the time to be able to talk to you all today. I think that Longmont is a fantastic community, and it is my honor to work for an organization that does serve such a wonderful community full of people that really do care and support one another.
All right, thank you very much.
you.
Very quickly, just so you know what's going to happen, the board, this is the last night of hearings. And in the next couple of weeks, we will be doing our deliberation, and they will be making recommendations. I will reach out to you whether you receive funding or not. And then ultimately we go to council in December, and they make the final approval of the recommendations. So we'll be in contact for sure. So,
wonderful.
Well, thank you for being here tonight. I hope you have a great rest of your night.
Thank you. You too. You have a long one ahead of you. So
we do.
Best of,
yes.
Best of luck. I loved looking at the list because all wonderful organizations. So you've got your work cut out for you.
For sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Nice meeting you all. Should I just hit leave and be done?
Yeah.
Bye.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Right.
So I said, so I hope I didn't jinx it. I said nobody's been late and everybody showed up and Jude's not here yet. Hopefully he shows up at 5:20 or so. I emailed his boss because an email that when I sent the original had for another person on their staff had bounced and she told me, yep, Jude will be there. So I'm just hoping that
And and is that CPWD?
yeah, CBWD. Yeah. I'm
So
hoping he shows up here in a minute. Hold on.
I hope so.
Yeah, because if they don't come, unless it's our fault, then like if we didn't send an invite or something,
Yeah.
then they are disqualified.
But they're on the invite. I mean, you check that.
Well, yeah, and like I said,
and you got confirmation. Yep.
yeah, I emailed yeah, because the other person that was on this invite, and I made sure that Jude was on it. The other person said I got a response saying they were no longer at the organization, so I emailed the executive director, and she responded to me saying I have a board meeting, but Jude will be there.
Okay.
So I'm hoping he shows up here.
Eliberto, I've never been here when somebody is late, but how long do you give them to log in? I'm sure he won't be late, but how long do
Typically
you
about
give them?
5 minutes or so.
5 minutes. Okay.
Okay.
There we go.
Wait. Somebody just came in.
Macintosh. Brandy.
No, let's let them in and find out where they're from.
Okay.
Hi, Brandy. Are you with CPWD?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good.
Great.
I was, I was getting worried. Is Jude coming? Do you know?
Yeah, Jude's coming. He's the one that's coming to do all the talking.
Okay. Okay. Good.
Okay.
Good. I was just getting. Yeah.
He should be here soon.
Perfect. That's fine. Oh, there he is.
Here we go.
Good. All right. Perfect. Hey, Jude.
Hello, can you see me or is my camera on?
Your camera is not on, but the important thing is I can hear you.
Okay,
Um,
there we
That's the
go.
important thing. Oh, now your camera's on. All
I
right.
also have Brandy McIntosh, who's our independent living advisor manager or manager. What's your title, Brandy?
Independent Living Services Manager.
Okay, yeah, so she's in charge of making sure all this stuff you pay us to do gets done. So I thought I'd ask her to join us on the call here.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. Well, welcome, Brandy and Jude. A few logistics to handle before we get started. First of all, we're grateful that you are here. Grateful for the work that you do in Longmont. So because this is a public meeting, because we have 3 board members online, it is being recorded and will be on the City of Longmont YouTube page in the near future.
Okay,
The way it's going to go down is we're going to do 15 minutes of Q&A from the board first, and then you will have 5 minutes to share whatever you want to share about your agency or your application. We may not use all those 15 minutes if the board or staff doesn't have that many questions, and you don't have to use all your 5. We just want to make sure that you have them. So with that, I'm going to ask you to quick introductions, and then the board will introduce themselves, and then we will get started.
okay. You want to go ahead, Brandy? Just introduce yourself again.
Yes, I'm Brandy McIntosh. I am our Independent Living Services Manager at CPWD. Been there at CPWD for about 5 years.
Thank you. And my name is Jude Sky. I'm the Director of Development and Communications. So I'm in charge of fundraising and also communications and other content creation. And I've been with CPWD for more than 10 years.
Board, who wants to go first?
Good evening. My name is Crystal Prieto. I'm sorry. I'm trying to give you my position title. I'm a board member with the City of Longmont Housing and Human Services. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Alejandro Prieto, and I am also a board member. This is my second year on the board.
Hi, Brandy and Jude. My name is Jeffrey Boring. This is my first year on the advisory board. It's nice to meet both of you.
Nice to meet you.
Good evening. I'm Christina Pacheco. I'm the Human Services Director for the city, and I work with Eliberto in our department.
And I'm Eliberto Mendoza, Human Services Program Manager. I help facilitate this process for the board and Christina. Great. I'm going to go ahead and start the timer. Board, if you have any questions, you can start now. Go ahead, Crystal.
Hi. So, can you tell me what types of services does your organization provide that other organizations in the county and the city don't provide?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think to answer that question, we have to talk about who we are, which is we're a Center for Independent Living. So we provide independent living services. Our whole aim is to assist people, any person with any disability, to get the skills and the training, the resources and the connections to live independently in the community. So we're not, a lot of places are case management where they'll sort of troubleshoot and take care of stuff, but we work with people on their independent living goals towards their independent living needs. So in our proposal, we had independent living skills training, information referral, and peer support as three of the main services. And those are services that can't be really accessed anywhere else. The information referral that we have is based on 47 years of expertise and being the only center for independent living in this region. Our skills training, same thing. We have a huge background in that, and that includes everything from assistive technology, mobility, housing, transportation, all of these things. And then our peer support is very unique because it's people with disabilities meeting with people with disabilities to find the strength, encouragement, learn from their experience, and build friendships and community that will help them succeed in their independent living goals. So most of our services, while they look like others, they're very unique in that way. I'll pause there and see if Brandy wants to add anything that I forgot to say.
Agree, and a lot of that, our services is by individuals with disabilities and learned experiences, which I think is very unique.
Yeah, that's important to note that as a Center for Independent Living, we're mandated to have 50% or more of our board and staff be people with disabilities, and currently that ratio is closer to about 70%. So it's lived experience in service delivery as well.
Can you tell me what the typical length of like time that a person would be on a case management plan or receiving services from your organization? Is it like a 90-day, up to 12 months? What does that look like?
Yeah, that's great. I'd like to take a shot at that and then also check with Brandy. So just to clarify, we don't provide case management. Case management, for us anyway, usually is more prescriptive, like telling people what to do. In independent living, what we're trying to do is engage people to identify their own independent living goals and work towards them. And that's really an important, like, person first differentiator for how we work. But so, for example, say somebody is transitioning out of a nursing home into their own home, that process could take 9 months, 12 months. But if somebody needs to come and learn, like they've lost their vision and they want to learn voice commands on an iPhone or learn how to, to communicate, that process could take a few weeks. Somebody who's applying for social SSI, social security supplemental income, or SSDI, that process could take months depending on the Social Security Administration. Somebody who wants to learn how to use public transit, that process could take a few weeks. And then there's information referral where somebody just needs to know where to go, and that process could take 15 minutes. So it really ranges depending on the individual needs. Do you have anything to add to that, Brandy?
I would just add that our services are consumer directed, and oftentimes we are working with them to achieve their goal. As long as they have a goal to work on, we're working with them. So it could be a month, it could be a year. It just varies from person to person and what their goal is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good questions.
Alejandro,
Hi. Um, would you, okay, explain to me how you cultivate and collaborate with community partners. Do you work with Imagine? Do you have any other partners that you work with that might have some overlap?
We do, well, I think Imagine and ACMI just merged into AI Enterprises. So they're the single port of entry now. And typically Imagine was focused primarily on people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And they had a series of programs like, for day programs and other things. We collaborate and work with them, but we don't duplicate services. We'll provide the kind of the skills training and peer support and some of the things that they may not provide. But we also work with a lot of community partners who've been around for a long time. Off the top of my head, I can't remember them all, but I know in Longmont, it's like the Longmont Housing Authority, El Comité. Brandy, do you know some of these? Because I know I put them in a proposal, but I don't have them at the top of my head.
And we also will coordinate with the senior center, sometimes working with the same individuals. I can't think of the name of there's another place, but I just I don't have them on top of my head either.
Yeah.
Right now.
But essentially, I mean, the important point is that we are connected. We're on different boards, community groups, organizations, and we all know what each other's doing, so we can cross-refer, make sure we don't duplicate services. The services that we provide are relatively unique. Some people may or may not need those. Sometimes when we get a consumer, there's things that we can't do, so then we can refer them out to our community partners to make sure that they can get what we call like a complete circle of support in terms of their independent living goals. And Alejandro, I'd be happy to send you a list of all the collaborators we work with if you'd like to as a follow-up.
That would be great. Yeah. I
Okay.
really appreciate your answer. I mean, obviously, I didn't mean to put you on the spot to list them all. Just the response I got was exactly what I wanted to hear, actually. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Jeffrey.
Yeah, I was curious about all the different skills training you provide. I would imagine that there are some trainings that are fairly common and some that I think you mentioned kind of customizing your trainings to the client's needs. But could you help me understand what are some of the basic trainings that are pretty common that you provide, and how many clients do you serve in Longmont?
Well, I'll take a quick shot again and then pass it to Brandy because that's really her area of expertise. But on our proposal, we indicated that with the funding we requested, we would serve 350 unduplicated we call them consumers. It's another language thing, but it's in that person-centered service provision where they're a consumer because they're choosing to receive these services versus being a client where we're making them receive these services. And skills, we serve more than that, but that's what we submitted on our proposal for what we intend to do. And Brandy, do you want to share about some of the skills trainings, what's typical and what some of the other ones are?
Yeah, some of the skills trainings that we do a lot of skills trainings around housing, understanding what Section 8 is and how to search for housing, where to look for housing. We do a lot of training around self-advocacy, how to advocate for yourself in different situations, which could be with your landlord, it could be with an employer, just how ways that they can better be their best self-advocate, even in the medical setting. We also do skills training around transportation, how to use RTD, how to use different apps and kind of just doing some one-on-one training with them. A lot of budgeting training. In addition to executive functioning skills training, we get that a lot with how to be better organized. How do I stay on schedule so that I meet my appointments or don't end up losing their benefits because they're not being as organized. So that's a couple of a lot of the top things that we do, but we do a whole host of other things as well. And it's geared to what goal that they come in saying they want, and we are there to kind of help guide them and support them while they achieve that goal.
One thing I'd like to add to that is, we do also have employment services or pre-employment services, and particularly with youth. And so we train them on, first of all, what's going to happen when you lose your IEP, your high school waiver, and you transition to an adult? How do you plan for that? Are you looking for a job? What do you need to know about how to communicate on a job, how to build a resume? What's appropriate work for you? Where do you want to go? Let's go out and check out some places, help you with interviewing skills. What are reasonable accommodations? How is this going to impact your family? How can we work together as a family unit to make this happen? How can the child who's becoming an adult individuate a little bit from perhaps overprotective parents? And, so there's a whole host of skills in there too, in that category. And we could go on and talk about that forever because that's all we do. But yeah. Did that answer your question, Jeffrey?
It did. Thank you. That was really helpful.
Thank you.
So I can ask the question that I've been asking all of our agencies. So what we know with our funding is that the need is growing while our funding is either flat or decreasing. And so what would be the specific impact that we might see in Longmont if your application is not funded at its requested amount, or if it is not funded at all?
Well, if it's not funded at the requested amount, we could prorate our outcomes and deliverables to be commensurate with whatever you could fund. If it's not funded at all, there'll probably be a significant impact. I mean, probably the impact would be a significant increase in your the cost of township operation, because without these services, there's a lot of like additional use of emergency services, police, firemen, all that kind of stuff. People winding up unhoused. And we would do the best we could, but we may not be able to serve as many people. Is there anything you want to add to that, Brandy? I mean, there's this for us. Yeah, I'm sorry. Were you going to say something?
I would just say the significant number of people with disabilities just really struggling more in the community without having that support that they need to be successful and to stay integrated in the community.
Yeah. I mean, it's a systemic thing. I mean, in this conversation with our proposal, it's a unique thing. You're looking at our services. How do they fit? How are they unduplicated? Or, but it's all the pie of all these human service agencies. It's a systemic support of our communities. And we provide a critical role there that basically helps us avoid other secondary challenges, like the injury, accident, unhousedness, domestic violence, or premature changes in the nursing home, youth couch surfing on their parents' couch for the next 16 years until they finally decide to move on, etc. So we just know from experience that, and best practices over the past almost 50 years, that these independent living services are the best way to support people with disabilities in living independently, integrating into the community. And overall, that makes the communities healthier, and more inclusive, more diverse. So that's the best I can say. I understand your position, Christina, and I know we've talked before, so you know how important this is. So hopefully that wasn't too much of a strong answer, but I just wanted to respond honestly with you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Crystal, we have about 1 minute for your questions, so go ahead and ask them.
Alrighty. Can you tell me what's the percentage of folks seeking services for like the independent living that actually go on to live independently and exit successfully?
That's a great question. I'm only going to take 15 seconds and let Brandy have the rest. Some people are in a position with their disability where they can acquire skills and live independently. Other people are not able to do that ultimately. I don't know what the percentage is. Brandy might know. Do you have any ideas?
I don't know what the percentages is to give you specific numbers, but I do know a lot of our consumers do have successful goals that are completed and are done, and we have some that are not. But a lot of the things that we are providing is to help them maintain that living in the community, or helping them get to that point so that they are able to. I just don't have specifics, sorry.
Eliberto, can I borrow from our time to add a little to
Yeah.
that question? Okay. Yeah, it's a reframe in perspective because really we want to help people achieve and maintain independent living. So let's say somebody transitions out of a nursing home, they're living independently, but then they might need skilled nursing support. They might need independent living skills training to get to the store. They might want to go back to school. So it's an ongoing process. Really, our demarcation, like our definition of success, isn't somebody who's not independent to somebody who is independent. Our demarcation of success is somebody who wants to achieve or maintain or improve their independence, sets independent living goals, and works toward and achieves them with our help. And each individual is so different that it's so hard to put a one size fits all measurement on that. So I'm sorry if that wasn't the best answer to your question, but
No, that was wonderful. Thank you.
yeah.
So I've already started the timer for your 5 minutes. So you get about 4 minutes for you to share whatever you want to share.
Okay. Is this for questions or sharing?
No, this is just you, whatever you want to say, share with the board.
Yeah, I was curious, Christina, do you have any numbers to the amount of funding versus the amount that was requested this year? Have you guys tallied that yet?
I have.
Yeah, Alberto has, yeah.
And unfortunately, the challenge continues. Currently, it's a little over $1 million more in requests than we have to allocate.
Yeah, you guys are doing a great job at promoting this program.
We have several new applications for sure. That is true.
Yeah.
And yeah, thankfully we only have about this year. I think it was like $12,000 less to allocate than last year.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, we were anticipating much more of a sharper cut to that, but we were able to not have to take those cuts because it is a difficult budgeting year for
Yeah.
our city.
Can completely understand that and really appreciate all your efforts to try to be, equitable and considerate with all of those challenges. What's the timing on your decision-making process?
Sure. Yeah, I can speak to that. So this is our last hearing of the cycle. And so the board needs to get me scores as soon as they can. And then we have our deliberation meeting on November 14th, where I will present options to the board based on their scores. And then we have to go before, so I'll be reaching out after that deliberation meeting. And then Christina and I have to go before the council. Because at the end of the day, those are just recommendations and the council gets to, they approve, and they don't typically change recommendations, but they can. And so then that's when it'll be final and I can start the agreement process. I think we're presenting December 13th or something like that. I forget.
Yeah, second week in December, I believe.
Yeah.
So mid-December, we should have some sort of
Well, and I'll put
understanding.
it in the email. I always let agencies know when we're presenting before council, because agencies are welcome to come,
December 10th.
December 10th.
Great. And then one final comment, I know we're just about out of time, is that you may be aware that last year we were renting a facility in Longmont from, I believe, like Longmont Housing. We actually took out a loan, second mortgage our property in Boulder, and purchased that facility. We're committed to long-term being in Longmont, providing services, and being a unique contributor, to the well-being of the community in terms of serving the disability population. So we're in this for the long haul. We hope to be in good relationship with you all for a long time as well, and continue to do this good work here. And also, if anybody has any follow-up questions, I'm available by email or otherwise if you need anything else that we didn't get to talk about on this meeting. Yeah. Do you want to say anything, Brandy?
Just that I think that it just it's a great service that we provide. We see a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons, and feel like it would benefit us greatly. We also have a peer group that we offer in Longmont now. This is new and it's growing, and it's another service that is very useful and beneficial to our consumers in Longmont.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time tonight. Appreciate it. And have a great rest of your night.
Okay, great to see you all. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Okay, bye. How do you leave?
All right. Let's keep rolling. We are doing great. Christy is in the waiting room. I'm going to go ahead and let her in. Hey, Christy, can you hear us?
I can. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. A little chilly.
Yes, it's a little chilly. So good evening. Just quickly to say that, of course, we're excited you're here and thank you for coming. This is a public hearing and it is being recorded, and it will be on our City of Longmont YouTube page in the near future. What we're going to do quickly is let you introduce yourself, then have the board introduce themselves and staff, and then we'll get right into question and answer time. It's 15 minutes of Q&A. We don't have to use that 15 minutes if there's not a lot of questions, and then you have 5 minutes to share whatever you want to share. You don't have to use that 5 minutes if you don't want to, but you're going to have it. So, all right, let's get started. Why don't you introduce yourself and then have the board introduce themselves.
Perfect. My name is Christy Britt. I am the Executive Director of Cultivate, and we provide senior services at no cost to older adults 60 plus in Boulder, Broomfield, and Weld counties.
Great. I saw I had somebody knocking on my window over here. Why don't you go ahead? I'm gonna go check this out.
Good evening. My name is Crystal Prieto, and I am a board member. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Good evening. My name is Alejandro Prieto. I'm also a board member. This is my second year on the board.
Hi, Christy. My name is Jeffrey Boring, and this is my first year to be on the advisory board. It's nice to meet you.
Good evening, Christy. I'm Christina Pacheco. I'm the Human Services Director for the city, and I work with Eliberto in our department. And so I think he might have mentioned, or they're all starting to blur, that this is a recorded session. You'll be able to see it on YouTube at some point. We record them because it's considered a public hearing, because we have 3 board members present. And so with that, we can go ahead and start with board questions.
I can start.
Okay.
One of the questions I've been asking Christy is, what types of services does your organization provide that are not provided by other organizations that serve Longmont and Boulder County?
Yes. First of all, nice to meet you all. Thank you so much. And actually, all of them are not provided by any other agencies. And we work very hard to ensure that we do not duplicate services. We do work in tandem with a lot of other human service agencies. So for example, our transportation program is focused on seniors, first of all. That's our minimum criteria, that you have to be 60 plus, but we focus on veterans and veteran family members. And so that way we can run alongside VIA without duplicating their volunteer or driver services. And for that particular one, we take a lot of our veterans to facilities outside of Boulder County and VIA service area. So we're driving to Veterans Affairs facilities in Aurora and Colorado Springs and Cheyenne. So really working hard to ensure that our services are not duplicated.
Thank you.
Sorry, thank you. Alejandro?
Hey, would you just run through referral to program activity to, I hate to say this, but hospice, I guess, is where that's the population you're working with, so that must be very hard too. So yeah.
Definitely. So we are not a home care service or provide any sort of medical. Our volunteers and our services are considered respite. So we do see a lot of our clients transition into hospice care. Fortunately, we see some of them transition out as well. So we are not making any direct referrals to hospice. We work as basically kind of part of their care team. And I don't want to say that, set in stone, because again, we are providing that respite type of care. So even if somebody does move into hospice, they can still use our services. For example, our grocery delivery, assuming that they would also have a caregiver, or they would have medical staff or family that are alongside them at that time. And so our grocery delivery service is really critical during that point, so that that caregiver or family or whomever doesn't have to leave our client's side and can still depend on weekly groceries. So in that instance, the client wouldn't have to call in the grocery order themselves. They can have one of their care team give us a call to place that grocery order, and we'll deliver it right to them.
Thank you, Christine.
Yeah, and how does one get into your program?
Yeah, it's really easy. They call, email, fax, if believe it or not. And it's a simple enrollment form. Again, our criteria is that they're 60 plus, that they live in one of the service counties, in one of the counties that we provide service. And then for our transportation program, just that additional piece of that they either a veteran or a veteran family member. It's a pretty simple enrollment process. We're asking, of course, demographics, since we are a provider of the Area Agency on Aging. We do have questions for income level and things like that. All of our questions are voluntary. They can refuse to answer any of them except for their age / birth date, because that is what our funding is based on. But all of it is self-reported. We do not verify any sort of any other status. If they report an income, we don't verify it. And once they're enrolled, they just sign the paperwork, send it back, and can start receiving services.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Jeffrey.
Christy, one of the things I liked about your application was how specific it was with some of the services you provide. And I haven't seen some of those services offered with other organizations. Just wanted to see if you'd take some time and walk us through some of those services. Like there's yard care and there's small repairs in homes and those sorts of things. Why are those important? What kind of needed benefits do those kinds of services provide to this community?
Definitely. Yes. So we've designed our services based on the CASOA, which is the Community Assessment Survey of Older Adults. And that's typically deployed by counties or larger government entities every several years. And we really make sure that we're looking at the Boulder County Area Agency on Aging survey results, surveying our community to see what are the needed services. And these ones have remained a staple. Transportation, as everybody has heard. But all of our services are designed to help an older adult age in place and remain in their home, whatever they define that home as. They don't have to be a homeowner. They can live in an apartment, whatever home means to them. So the direct service portion is really just designed to help either alleviate some of that stress, maybe from a caregiver, or perhaps the client doesn't have any friends or family near. As people age, their mobility or ability to drive declines, or perhaps their vision. So really things like that to keep them independent and have that freedom of choice, while just, we can order off Amazon, and it's just as easy. So basically we're doing that, but providing a more intimate and personal level of service. So very quickly, our services are the veteran transportation that I mentioned, and those are medical rides to and from. They don't have to be to the VA facilities. They can be to any medical provider in or outside of Boulder County. Our volunteer typically stays with them. Most of our volunteers just pick up the round trip ride. So they stay at the doctor's office. They don't act as any sort of medical proxy or anything like that. But then there's, that guaranteed, as soon as that client walks out the door, they know their ride is there. We have our carry-out caravan, which is weekly grocery shopping and delivery service. We have our yard cleanup, which is a once-a-year cleanup, really designed for safety and reduction of code enforcement violations. Our snow removal services, our most requested service, and that's we activate our volunteers within 24 hours of a snow event, reminding them to clear the driveway of their assigned client. We have our Phone Buddies program, which is a companion call program, just designed for companionship and check-ins. And then we have our Fix It program, which are minor home repairs. There's a very broad definition of that. So we're doing a lot of safety related repairs, grab bar installations, if we need to change light switches to toggles because that's more comfortable for perhaps an arthritis diagnosis. We do walker and wheelchair repairs within that, and very minor tech support to help them make sure that they can stay connected. So all of those services, in addition to the direct benefit that the client receives, are designed to really integrate our volunteers with our clients to help reduce that isolation and loneliness, because we know that that is just such a huge component, especially as our population ages. That is important, not just for, feeling connected and feeling desired and having those human relationships, but the studies have also shown that there are drastic health benefits when one is, when one has that social connective community. Once people of any age start to become lonely and isolated, there's a higher risk of stroke and heart attack. There's a plethora of studies that show that loneliness is linked to the health decline of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So even just that connectiveness is helping to keep our community healthy and engaged, both for the volunteers and the clients.
Thank you very much. That's really helpful.
All right. Any more questions?
I can ask the question that I've been asking all of our agencies. Our funding has not really increased, remained flat, taken a little bit of a decrease, and we know that the need is far outpaces the resources that we have. And so given that, what would be the impact to Longmont if your request wasn't fully funded as written, or if it was not funded at all?
There wouldn't be a significant impact in Longmont. Certainly almost every agency is in this position. We're all very well aware of that. We have been working very hard with our external funders and our foundations to really bring light that, there hasn't been any increase of funding for aging services. So simple answer, the impact would be minimal on Longmont itself. We have gone through this exercise in our board retreat on, what if we don't get full funding from different agencies? And we've really been working hard over the last 12 to 18 months to build new relationships with other types of funders, and have made some great headway on that, so that if we aren't fully funded, that we can absorb that impact without huge detriment to our clients.
Thank you.
All right. If there's no other questions, I will stop our timer. And I will give you your 5 minutes, Christy. And again, you don't have to use it all, but you have it.
Sounds great. Yeah, I'll just use a few minutes of it. I guess this is a great continuation of what I was saying is, we've made some really strong strides and have been invited to quite a few actual medical facility foundations to do presentations and continue the conversation about funding. The Surgeon General's report that came out last year about loneliness and the health benefits of connectivity has really piqued their interest. And we've been doing that for so many years. So, on that note, obviously nothing's guaranteed, but certainly new prospects of funding on the horizon to continue our sustainability and to continue and grow our ability to serve older adults in the community. Also, I'm really excited to say that next month we will be beta testing our international shopping day. And so we're allowing our current clients, we're not opening it up to new clients yet, just so that we can gauge the interest and be able to build a sustainable program with new or additional volunteers. And so we've let our clients know that we, at this point, for our beta test, once a month, we'll take their orders for some international shopping at the Carniceria in Longmont, and then the new Asian market in Longmont. So actually, we're just going to be bringing our shopping business there to all of our current clients to allow them some additional choice within those cultural food groups. So we're really excited to see what that brings. And to be able to just offer that service. And certainly as interest and demand for that grows, we would definitely look at opening that up, to announce it to new clients instead of just our existing clients, and then, increase the frequency with which we do it if needed.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you. So really quickly, I'm just going to talk a little about how the process is going to go. This is the last evening of our hearings. The board will get me scores as soon as they can. On November 14th, we have our deliberation meeting. Soon after that, I'll reach out on, whether or not you got funded and at what amount you're being recommended funding. And then Christine and I will be presenting to council on December 10th. And ultimately, council is the one who approves the funding. It's their prerogative to change recommendations. They typically don't, but I always let folks know they can. So I will be reaching out pretty soon after November 14th. So have a great rest of your night.
Sounds perfect. Thank you so much. And you guys enjoy your evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good night.
You too.
All right. And we got the next group in the lobby. I think they're all for the same. We're going to find out. Good evening, everybody. Just want to make sure that all three folks that are joining us are here for Imagine.
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Great. Thank you. All right. So welcome. Thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate your time. A couple of logistics things. This is a public hearing for our human services funding, and is being recorded and will be on the City of Longmont YouTube page in the near future. What we're going to do tonight is we're going to have a 15-minute question and answer from the board and staff to you all, and then we'll give you 5 minutes at the end to share whatever you want to share. We don't have to use all the 15 minutes, and you don't have to use all the 5, but we'll make sure you have those 5. we're going to start with letting you introduce yourselves, then our board will introduce themselves to you, and then we're going to get going as quickly as possible.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Meredith. I am the grant writer for Imagine.
Hi, I am Monica Hoffman. I am the Assistant Director of Client Services with Imagine.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm Katie James. I'm the program manager for our supported employment program at Imagine.
Thank you. Board.
Hi, good evening. My name is Crystal Prieto. I'm a board member with the City of Longmont Housing and Human Services. Thank you for being here.
Hello, good evening. My name is Alejandro Prieto, and I am also a member of the board. This is my second year.
Good evening. My name is Jeffrey Boring. This is my first year on the advisory board. It's nice to meet you all.
Good evening. Welcome back, Jennifer. I'm Christina Pacheco. Good to meet you, Katie and Monica. I'm the Human Services Director for the city, and I work with Eliberto in our department.
And I'm Eliberto Mendoza, Human Services Program Manager, and I help facilitate this process for the board and Christina. And we're going to go ahead and get started. Any questions from the board for Jennifer and the team? If not, I can jump in because actually, I'll let Alejandro and the board and Crystal go first. Alejandro, why don't you go first?
So I'm just curious because I also was present when Imagine applied for a grant. I guess what is the difference between today and a few days ago? Am I?
Yeah, I can answer that question for them. In
Okay.
the first one, they were applying for their supportive housing or to help folks stay independently housed. This is for employment. So this belongs in self-sufficiency. That's the big difference.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool. Well, nice. What you guys keep surprising me. So I read about you. I read your proposals on both, and then I'm like, what? There's more,
Yeah.
and then there's more. So
Well, as
okay.
we mentioned last time, Alejandro, I appreciate that because we do have a great breadth of services and we do provide the services that a lot of other providers don't, especially those that don't necessarily make money. So we try and cover the entire needs of the IDD community.
Thank you.
Crystal?
So, could you just talk a little bit about this program that you're applying for? Like, what are you planning to use these funds with if awarded?
Monica, do you want to take that or do you want me to?
I'll let you start it if you don't mind, Jen, and then I can kind of
Okay.
tag along.
Okay. So this is for our supported employment services program. And we're targeting a couple of areas within this, because even within our supported employment services program, we offer about 5 different facets. One of the areas is job development. We are wanting to get individuals off of our wait list. So our job development team does skills assessment, needs or interest assessment. Then they help people build job skills. They help with the resume, how to interview, how to have professional attitude and attire, and help folks get employed and find a job that fits what they want to do. And some of the major objectives of that are, to get more folks employed. So our goal this year is to get 50% of the people who come through this program this year to be employed in competitive integrated environment. Another major facet of this is that we want to engage with more employers in the city of Longmont. And to do that, we need to be able to have our specialists go out and meet with businesses and teach them about inclusion in the workplace and get them excited about it. And then And those are that's huge unfunded cost because we don't get reimbursed for that time. And so again, our goal is to get engaged with at least get like 10, engage with 10 employers and try and get at least 5 more to sign on with us. And then another aspect is benefits counseling. And with benefits counseling, the major goal of that is to take folks who are looking at getting employed or actually who are already employed, but are afraid of becoming employed or afraid of getting more hours or a raise because they don't understand how that's going to impact their benefits. As you know, people with IDD often have to wait years and years to receive benefits, sometimes up to 13 years. So we want them to make decisions based on facts and not fear, and hope that will get more individuals excited about employment. But go ahead and round that out, Katie and Monica. That was a very quick overview.
Do you partner at all with Workforce Boulder County? And what does that collaboration look like?
So we have just started some collaboration with Boulder Workforce, and right now we're sort of in the beginning stages of that partnership, and we are excited to be hosting a reverse career fair after the first of the year, and we will be partnering with them to help bring in more employers so that we can help get that education out there to the community.
Actually, I have a follow-up question because we just talked to Imagine a few minutes ago, and they talked about having an employment service as well, pre-employment and things like that. Do you work with them at all on this venture?
We are Imagine. With whom?
Yeah.
Sorry, not Imagine. Who we just talked to? I'm blanking. I apologize.
TPWD.
TPWD.
Okay, so
Sorry.
yeah, one of the major differences, actually Katie can speak really well to this, is with regards to whom we serve. But Katie, why don't you, if you're okay, take over that explanation, and I'll round it out if you need any help.
Yes, so I would definitely love your support too, Jennifer. But my understanding with them is that, you know, they definitely, you know, they work with their population, but a smaller portion of it. So they, I'm blanking on the name of the program, Jennifer, that we were looking at. Ticket to Work?
The Ticket to Work, the TTW program, yeah. So they handle primarily SSI and SSDI waivers, where so that's like people who are wanting to go to work full time and get off of waivers and or support systems. And with our population, we work with individuals who are on HCBS waivers, which stands for Home and Community-Based Services. And those are long-term care waivers. So we do DD and SLS waivers. And so it's a different population that we're working with. We do overlap a tiny bit because we do also work with some SSI and SSDI folks.
I'd say majority of our clients, though, they need to remain on those waivers for a very, you know, their lives long term, just because, you know, they do receive a lot of supports and services on them, and without those waivers, they would not have access. So that's majority, almost probably most of our clients that we work with. So they would not qualify for that Ticket to Work program because they do need to remain on the waivers and those benefits.
And then with regards to benefits counseling, the Center for People with Disabilities do offer benefits counseling through their DDR waiver, but we also offer it through the SLS and DD waivers. And that is, again, the majority of our clients.
Other questions from the board or staff?
So I asked this question, Jennifer, in the last meeting that we had with you all, but what would be the specific impact to this program if this application was not funded in its entirety or was not funded at all?
I mean, I can speak a little bit to that as well. I mean, essentially, we would not be able to put forward this growth that we're looking for. Right now, we just don't have the funds to move forward. And there's so many individuals on our wait list that we want to be able to pull in and provide that support and let them gain that independence and, you know, be able to feel like they're giving back to their community. And without those funds, we're just not able to move the program forward. So we would kind of just be stagnant where we are right now.
So that brings up a question for me, because we talked a little bit about this. So what other avenues for funding are you looking for this program? Because one of the things we want to see, at least when I'm looking at an application, is that there is other community support besides, like, Longmont can't be the sole funder of a program. You know, it's not what this funding is meant for. We can help, but it's really, we just want to see that there's other support in the community to make sure that it's a program that's wanted and needed and supported by the community.
Yeah, so I can speak to that a bit. And answering a question from last week that I didn't do an awesome job with, you know, under the agency budget, our foundation, which is our fundraising and contribution arm, is raising like $700,000 across all of our programs. And I think about 24,000 of that is designated for employment services. So that's my job, is to go out and find that money. So along with additional grants, like we just received it, we got a training grant from HICPUF, and our job coaching team just got amazing mentorship, one-on-one in the field training on competitive integrative employment from the Colorado Office of Employment First. So we've been partnering with them, but we have secured some other grants from other foundations and or businesses in the area. But again, our goal is to get out there and get into out with more businesses so that we can create more opportunities for employment, as well as grow these other services that we're looking at doing. So we do, I mean, we're out there fundraising and through grant writing, through independent donations, that kind of thing.
Thank you. Jeffrey.
Yeah, I appreciate your comment about, it's really, this application isn't about maintaining the status quo, it's about growth. And you had mentioned a waiting list. So I'm going to ask kind of a data question and feedback loops. This organization's been around, I think I read, for 60 years or so. So you have a great history. How do you know that these new programs or this growth that you're proposing is going to work? Why did you choose these new programs? What evidence do you have that shows it's important to create them?
Well, in the needs assessment section of the grant application, we kind of talked to that a little bit. Well, at one of the major components is that, you know, only 14% of people who qualify for these FLS waivers are actually employed. So we know there's a large part of the population that can move forward to become employed, and benefits counseling is one of the things that we've heard. Also, we did an assessment with Boulder County, a needs assessment for people with IDD, and some of the things that came up were education about inclusion, with regards to the workforce, being able to be involved in competitive integrated employment. So the framework for employment has changed so much over the last 3 to 5 years. It used to be group employment, like congregate employment, or sub minimum wage employment. So now these folks are in being paid at least minimum wage. They have opportunity for advancement, and they have the opportunity to work with individuals who don't have disabilities. And those were some direct feedbacks from what we've seen on these assessments done by the Boulder County, as well as what we're seeing like from some national statistics. So the job development is the reason we're focusing on that one, because that's the entry point. That's where you're saying, hey, I want to learn how to get a job. How do I do it? They don't, you know, these folks haven't necessarily had the training that you and I would have, you know, even going through high school or a vocational situation, let alone going on to college. So they haven't been exposed necessarily to these ideas. And there may be even some learned helplessness. So we're really working to educate the community as well as the population, because we're not only educating businesses, we go out to lots of other community events where we're educating the IDD population on, hey, you know what, you could be employed. So I hope that answered your question.
It does, yeah. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that.
All right, great. Any other questions? If not, I'll go ahead and stop our timer and give you all your 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Monica and Katie, do you have anything you would like to add?
Nothing that's popping out to me. Yeah, I think it's, a lot of what we do is trying to create the connections out in the community. And, that takes just a lot of time. And unfortunately, that is time that we aren't able to bill for. So we are out there kind of pounding the pavement, so to speak, to educate the community and meet with business partners and possible employers. And, we do spend a pretty fair amount of time doing that because that community connection is critical to what we do. And the piece that is just really difficult for us is finding, being able to have that balance between the billable and non-billable to keep the program, in a place that it can continue to grow.
Yeah. And I think the only thing that I would add is that, you know what, the city of Longmont itself, just the city, is 30% of our clientele. Just the city of Longmont, out of Boulder and Broomfield counties and some of the other counties that have a few clients trickle in here and there. But the city of Longmont is a huge part of our population, and they've been good supporters of us. The community has been good supporters of us, so we'd be very excited to receive support for this grant.
I absolutely second that, Jen.
Me too.
Well, thank you. Let me just give you a little rundown on what happens next. So this is our last hearing this evening. Board members will get me their scores, and we will meet on November 14th to do our deliberation. I will provide options for the board, and then we go before City Council on December 10th for final recommendations. Ultimately, council can change the recommendations. They don't always, but they can. But either way, I will be in contact with you after the 14th of November. So you'll be hearing from me then.
Yeah. Please let us know if you have any questions on the interim. I don't know if that's allowed or not, but we're happy to answer.
All right, great. Well, have a good night, and thank you for being here.
Thank you all so much for your time and for letting us explain our program.
Thank you.
Thank you for the
Thank you.
opportunity.
You have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye, thanks.
Thanks. Bye.
All right, El Comité is on next, and they're here. Good evening.
Good evening.
Evening.
Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm going to go over some quick logistics, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. Because we have our board members here, this is a public hearing, and thus is being recorded, and will be on our City of Longmont YouTube page in the near future. What we're going to do tonight is we are going to do some let you all introduce yourselves quickly. We will introduce ourselves quickly, and then we will have a period of question and answer, about 15 minutes. And then we'll give you 5 minutes to share whatever you want to share. We don't have to use the 15 minutes, and you don't have to use all your 5, but we'll make sure you have them. So let's start quickly with introductions, and then we'll get right to it. Lisa, you want to go first?
Sure. I'm Lisa Moreno. I am the executive director at El Comité. I have been on the job for 11 months. My background is policy and social work, and it's been a wild and wonderful and satisfying ride so far. And I look forward to continuing to move the organization forward. Riley?
Yeah, hi, I'm Riley Nelson. I'm the development coordinator at El Comité. I've been at El Comité since 2020, on staff since 2021. I started as a student intern, and yeah, I do grant writing.
Everything.
Yeah.
Riley does everything.
Awesome, thank you.
Lots of things.
Board.
Hi, good evening. My name is Crystal Prieto, and I am one of the board members for the City of Longmont Housing and Human Services. Thank you for being here.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello, it's Alejandro Prieto. How you doing? I'm a board member
Hey.
this second year. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi. Thank you.
Hi, Riley and Lisa. My name is Jeffrey Boring. This is my rookie year. It's my first year on the advisory board. It's a pleasure to meet both of you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Good evening. I'm Christina Pacheco, Human Services Director with the city, and I work with Eliberto in the Human Services Department.
And I'm Cleo Mendoza, Human Services Program Manager. I help facilitate this process. So let's go ahead and get started. Alejandro, you have the first question.
Now I know you have a lot on your plate, and you have done a lot since you gotten there, Lisa. I've seen it. What is going on with your board? Any progress on maybe new policies, changes, a little more diversity?
Interesting question. So boards are always evolving. We added 2 new members this year to the board, both of whom are immigrants. One person was new to Longmont and had run a statewide Latino-focused organization, Latino Rights Commission for the state of Oregon. They were able to secure Medicaid coverage for undocumented children in Oregon and also outlawed notarios. So I was super excited to snatch him up and get him on the board. He himself was undocumented and, like the book Solito, came as a child by himself and joined his family in Chicago. If you ever meet him, he's got an amazing love story, and that's how he ended up in Longmont. And even though his last name is Moreno, but we are not related in any way that we know. Then we also added Ricardo Cabrera, who some of you may know from the community. He and you, I think, are talking to him later today also. And he helped get the Latino chamber back on track and save it financially. So he so far has been an absolute mastermind for getting things moving forward and keeping folks involved while moving towards change. We right now are recruiting for new board members. We have one rolling off. Sarah Levinson is leaving the board, and then the board wants to add 4 new members. So we'll see how that goes. I'd say probably half of the recruits that they are looking at, I have recruited myself. And one that I didn't recruit myself that someone else did is actually someone who has used our services in the past. So I'm super excited about her too.
Thank you.
Crystal.
Hi. So my question for you is, so El Comité, so I'm a resource navigator, and yeah, like I don't have to ask you the question that I've been asking a lot of other agencies of how your organization differs from other agencies alike, because there really isn't any. And that's just based off of my own knowledge, right? My question for you tonight, though, and also thank you for the work that you do, because it is very difficult. What is one of the primary services that you offer in-house that you're most proud of?
We are just putting the final touches on a strategic plan, which El Comité has not really had in place in any concrete way for quite a while. And one of the things we did were participant focus groups. And the participants told us 2 really important things. They told us a lot of things, but 2 that really stuck in my brain. And one was that the legal services that we provide, the access to attorneys, is one of the most valuable things to them. And the other thing they told us was that what we already knew, or I already knew from a previous job, is there's a significant unmet need for grief support and mental health support in Spanish in the community. And then the other thing that came out of it is El Comité has always had a mission, but it's never had a vision, and our values were never excavated and written down. And one of the values that we were able to ferret out in terms of how we function and what already exists is that we really value equitable accessibility and low barriers to entry for services. So I am quite proud of our ability to get over between 300 and 400 people connected to attorneys to get the advice and counsel that they need. I would like to stretch that out further, which connects to our proposal to you all, so that we can actually offer those services in-house rather than them then having to contract with community attorneys at market rate. But for now, even getting them a $30 consult with an attorney so that they can at least take the edge off the stress they're feeling is super helpful. But the other one is that anybody can walk in our door 5 days a week and get their issue addressed. They may have to wait a little, but they don't have to come back for an appointment to figure it out. And I think, to a certain extent, it's an older service model. But on the other hand, none of the FRCs are really able to, based on their caseloads, be able to just get people in the door the same day, and it's harder and harder to get appointments. So I am and will remain always very proud that we can address people's needs the day they walk in the door, and walk them through whatever it is. And I think we like to think of ourselves as the Swiss Army knife of human services. It doesn't have to be one particular thing. You don't come to us just for help. You can't, it's really literally anything that someone needs, we will help them work through.
Thank you.
Jeffrey.
Yeah, I have a couple questions, and maybe you can just choose whichever one you want to answer, because I know we're short on time. Lisa, you mentioned a strategic plan, and I imagine that's a 5-year or 10-year plan. How does this application, is this application directly related to your strategic plan and ensuring this is a sustainable organization over the long haul? That's question number one. And the other question is, what are the big barriers? What are the big challenges to be successful? I think you mentioned the pride in providing some of your customers or clients access to attorneys. Are there sufficient attorneys locally? What are some of the barriers to being the success to fulfilling the vision that you've articulated in the strategic plan?
So our plan is 3 years. Given the changing reality and how quickly it changed, we did not want to plan out 5 to 10 years. We just didn't think that it's meaningful after that. We can continue to, do some short plans and update what we have, but for now, we want to look 3 years out. Our goal of building out our legal services, particularly for immigration law, is definitely within the scope of the plan. So it is finally aligned, and just the fact that we have values and something we're working towards in terms of a vision, I think for me helps a lot in knowing where to drive the organization. Did that answer question one?
It did, yeah, thanks.
All right, so you asked about sustainability. Another piece of the plan is definitely a sustainable organization. So this week, that last week and this week, I've added 2 pretty heavy hitters to our finance committee. So I feel like we're gonna get, a little bit of slapping around quite a bit, and I think that's great. It's about time. So we have the finance director from Boulder Humane Society, which is, multi-million-dollar organization, joining our finance committee. And then we keep your fingers crossed for us for a total agreement, but we got a very strong interest from Greg Fight, who is just retiring from finance director for the St. Vrain Valley School District.
Oh.
So we're going to be on a journey of improving internal controls. We're also bringing our accounting in-house, cleaning up our chart of accounts and starting our books over in January so that things make sense and tell a better story. The challenge, El Comité has always been an under-resourced organization and relied significantly not only on government grants, but foundation grants. And in 23, there were not a lot of foundation grants that came in the door, in spite of Riley's best efforts. And so that meant that we started this year in a significant deficit. We weren't in debt, but we also didn't have the funds for our budget right away. We had a bit of a reserve, so we lived off that for a month, and then I went about building an individual donor program. And to date, we've brought in over $100,000 in individual gifts. So we've been building everything up as we go. I have a newsletter now. If you're not on our newsletter, please sign up for it. You can see how we're going about building this donor base. We did an online campaign for the mid-year and brought in $22,000. And while that's not a huge amount of money, it's pretty good for an online mid-year campaign, and it is like exponentially more than El Comité has ever brought in before. So we are really excited about our end of year, and we'll learn a lot. And I mean, the beauty of being the executive director now for El Comité is that there are so many areas in which we can improve what existed before in terms of finances, that things like major cuts to the county don't really impact us because that wasn't ever the money that we were getting. So we can only go up regardless of what happens in the environment around us.
For sharing that. That helps a lot.
Any other questions from the board, staff?
Well, I think, I've been asking the same question of all of our agencies, and I think you in part answered that question with your last answer, Lisa, but, specifically, what would be the impact to Longmont if your application was not fully funded or was not funded at all? Anything else you want to add just in terms of what you expanded upon with the county funding?
Well, I expanded on the county fund. We get community service funds. We don't get HHS
Got it.
funds.
Oh, got
So
it.
I'm not
Okay.
concerned about that number for us.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, we significantly increased our ask of you all this year. If we are not fully funded, we will raise the money elsewhere. We would hope that we could at least be flatlined, so we had that money to count on for our, core operations, our case manager services as they exist, and keep that going. I can find money for an attorney. The need is so huge that if the city isn't able to do it, we can do it. That said, we're serving almost 3,500 people who are immigrants and Spanish speakers this year in 24. And that's almost 10% of the Latino population in the community in which we live. And it seems to me that this should be a priority for the city. So if we were not funded at all, that would be a huge struggle. We are still building. And if the city decided to back out of funding or funded us at less than we currently are, I think it would confuse us at least about the city's commitment to this population. There's lots of ways, and Crystal, why don't you go ahead before I start off on a tangent?
And we got about a minute left, so.
Yeah, so I just wanted to confirm. So the funding that you're requesting is for an in-house attorney to provide services to participants.
The funding that we're requesting based on the budget, some of it goes to our existing staff, and then it was also planned for half of an immigration attorney in-house. We are working on getting our staff accredited, but our staff are peers. They're not, master's degree level. And so I really feel like if we're going to be doing immigration law, we really need to have some direct supervision. So having an attorney on staff would make sure that as soon as we hire that person, we can begin to provide immigration services at a low cost to the community. If we have to wait until we get our staff over the line of accreditation, it's going to take quite a bit longer. I mean, for them, because they're hourly, they do case management all day, then they have to do the classes at night. I pay overtime. It just begins to add up, and it's just going to take us a lot longer. I was hoping we could do it in 6 months, and we've been at it this long, and we still have probably another 6 months to go.
Thank you.
The only other thought I want to leave you with is that we don't work in isolation. We partner with city departments, we partner with other nonprofits. An example of we have a client right now in partnership with Alejandro and Recovery Cafe and Hope. And together we have managed to get this person who was a victim of a crime and sustained a major injury and was unhoused in together everyone's funds. We've been able to make sure that he had a roof over his head for up to 4 weeks while he at least begins to recover enough to head back out. So we're definitely partnering in ways that El Comité hasn't in the past. And I don't, if we weren't around, I don't know what I don't know what the city would do, honestly. What would the city do? I think we're really serving a population that doesn't walk in other people's doors. I mean, we build that bridge for them to be able to do that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so I actually started the 5-minute counter. Anything else you want to add, Lisa? You still got 4 minutes.
I don't know. You want a story?
You can share whatever you want to share. It's your time.
So, people come in literally with anything. We had a guy walk in once who had solar panels, and he wanted to know why his utility bills were so high at $300 a month. And with his permission, I got all of his bills from the utility company, and I was able to create a spreadsheet for him to show him exactly which months of the last 3 years his solar panels had worked, and found multiple vendors that would go check them so that he knew that the people who had offered to do it for $1,000 were not completely out of the ballpark. So that's the type of thing we do. Another client experience was we had someone who came to our office who felt like they had experienced an excessive use of force from the Longmont Police Department. And so we connected them to counsel, and we got them counsel within 24 hours. And that counsel took them on contingency, so at no cost to them, and they are working through that case. So then it becomes a case that we hear nothing about, except occasionally they call us to let us know that they're doing fine and they feel supported. We had a client one day walk into our office during the day who was absolutely desperate and panicked, sobbing. Turns out her intellectually disabled son was supposed to cross the border from Juarez into El Paso that day. And she got a phone call from what she thought was a government entity that said that they had him and he was safe. Then she got a phone call from another entity that she thought was a government entity that said that he was in child protection, which doesn't really exist in Border Patrol. And Border Patrol doesn't call you when they have someone that they, and then she started getting a slew of calls from a Mexican number saying that they had her son and they were going to torture him or kill him if she didn't start sending them large amounts of money. And she had no idea what to do. And I called a friend of mine who is an attorney on the border and said, what would you do? And she said, well, if this were here, I would call the U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI. Try that. So I called both of those entities, who laughed at me or hung up on me. So that clearly wasn't going to work. And in the end, I called a friend of mine who works for the Senate and worked for a senator from Vermont for 40 years now works for a freshman senator from Vermont, but still has all his contacts. And he said, yeah, I got a couple of friends at Border Patrol and send me an ROI. Within 24 hours, we were able to tell her that her son was safely in Border Patrol custody and that all she needed to do was watch the website, and we showed her how to get there so that she could track where he was and eventually get in touch with him. And then we put her in touch with an attorney in El Paso, and that was the end of the case for us.
Thank you so much. So our time is almost up. Just to let you know, this is the last night of hearings that the board is doing. They will get me scores, and we will have our deliberation meeting November 14th. And then we will go before council on December 10th to get those recommendations approved. As always, council has prerogatives to change those recommendations. They typically don't, but they can. So I will let you know either way right after November 14th. So,
Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate
you
your
all.
time.
Have a
For the
great
work
night.
that
Thank
you do.
you.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Have a good night.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Good night.
What a
All right.
powerhouse, huh?
What?
What a powerhouse.
Lot of
I'm
work.
excited to see what comes about with the new leadership.
Yeah, definitely a change.
Exciting.
All right, Intercambio is in the waiting room, and we're gonna let them in. Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Hello. Want to make sure everybody hears for Intercambio?
Yes.
Perfect. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you for being with us here tonight. A couple of logistical things before we get started. We were trying to, sorry you had to wait a little bit. Some of our conversations sometimes go a little bit long. We try to stay on time as much as possible, but we just have some great conversations with our local nonprofits. Sometimes it take a little bit longer. So real quickly, just so you know that this is a public hearing and is being recorded and will be on our City of Longmont YouTube page in the near future. What we're going to do tonight is have 15 minutes of Q&A from the board, and then give you all 5 minutes to share whatever you want to share. To the board, you all have been going at this now for a while. If you need to step away to take care of yourselves, please do. I'm sure some of us will stay on to handle this. But I appreciate the boards. They've been here for quite some time already. So why don't we go ahead and let you all introduce yourselves, and then we will introduce ourselves, and then we will get started.
I'm Paul Melroy. I'm the Director of Operations at Intercambio. I'm kind of new. I've been there about 6 months. So you probably may have seen my predecessor, Becky, once upon a time.
Yeah. Okay.
Hi, my name is Lucia. I'm the grants manager at Intercambio. I'm also pretty new. I've been in the organization and in Colorado since June. Very happy to be here.
Great. Thank you. Welcome.
Hi all, I am Alma Chavez. I am the Assistant Director of the English programs at Intercambio, and I am the oldest because I have been with Intercambio for 6 years now as a staff, but I started some years ago as a student.
Awesome. Great. Board, why don't you introduce yourselves?
Good evening. My name is Crystal Prieto. I'm a board member here at the City of Longmont Housing and Human Services. Thank you folks for being here tonight.
Good evening. I'm Alejandro Prieto, and I'm also a board member. This is my second year on the board.
Hello, my name is Jeffrey Boring. This is my first year on the board. It's nice to meet you all.
Good evening. I'm Christina Pacheco. I'm the Director for Human Services at the City of Longmont, and I work with Eliberto.
Eliberto Mendoza, Human Services Program Manager. I help facilitate this process for the board and Christina. I'm going to go ahead and start the timer. Any questions from the board or staff? Alejandro.
Would you just walk me through a day? I'm a person that needs your services.
Alma, you take that.
So we serve immigrants from all over the world. We have right now like a more than 36 languages for students taking our English classes. We right now we have classes in person in Boulder with set of classes in the morning and the evenings. We also have classes in Longmont in the mornings and the evenings on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We also have classes on Mondays and Wednesdays just in the mornings. And we have the one-on-one program that program is for the students that cannot make it to the group classes, either because transportation, the schedule doesn't work for them, or other circumstances.
Alma, why don't you walk through what happens when someone contacts us and says I think I want to take an English class. What happens to that student?
Absolutely, yes. So when someone calls us asking about English classes, we give them the information. We talk to them about first where do they live, and then we give them the information about our classes, the programs that we have, and we make sure that we do an evaluation of their English because we want to make sure the program fits their needs. So we have right now 7 levels, starting from the intro level, where in the intro level, the students are going to start from 0. They are going to learn the numbers, the alphabet. And in level 6, that's our highest level. Students are reading novels in English. So at that point, students are speaking English. So once we have the placement test, then we talk to them about the schedules. If the schedules work for them for the group classes, then we assign them to one of the classes that we have in Longmont or Boulder. And if the schedule doesn't work for them, then we work with the schedule and see if we can find them a teacher that can do one-on-one classes. Did I answer the
Thank you
question?
so much. That was awesome. Yes, yes. Thank you so much. I just couldn't find the mute button. And I'm sorry I'm off camera. I'm traveling. So, but thank you.
All right. Any other questions?
I have a question. What other programs does your organization have that you think are kind of noteworthy of talking about tonight?
Wow, that's a loaded question because we have a lot going on. So, our primary thrust is, as you might imagine, teaching English to people who either don't speak it or don't speak it well, with the further goal of getting people more incorporated into the community. We really are about building community. That's the whole reason we do what we do. But during the pandemic, as you might imagine, we had trouble holding classes in person and started investigating what it might be like to offer classes online. We developed a pretty decent little internet learning system that we've been using. We're in the middle of what we call phase 2, which is actually building a scalable version of our internet learning system. But our goal is to teach hundreds of students online, as well as the hundreds and hundreds that we teach locally. The other big thing that we're doing right now is over the years, we have developed a proprietary curriculum that works really, really well. Our teachers are volunteers. They're not professional educators. I mean, we have a lot of retired teachers, but our program allows for volunteer teachers who don't necessarily speak the language of the student, the home language of the student, allows them to teach them English. So we have this wonderful curriculum, which sort of by word of mouth, we've gotten big demand from across the country of people interested in buying our curriculum. And then we started discovering that people liked our methodology and that we could do some training. So really in the last couple of years, we've started doing training across the country to help other people do what we do without us running the classes. We teach people how we've had success in teaching English as a second language, and we can distribute our curriculum, which is extremely modestly priced. So if you were to go out there and look at what the curriculum costs for to learn English, it can be very, very expensive. And we represent a really, really discounted way to get a hold of those books. So those are some of the things that we have going on. We're in a time of, I think, of pretty serious growth for the organization. You know, we were about $1.5 million organization a few years ago. We fully expect to be about a $4 or $5 million organization in a few years. So we've got a lot of cool things happening, and we're excited to do them.
And also, Paul, we have a citizenship classes program.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, there's
small,
citizenship
but
classes, and
yeah, we have classes every Wednesday online for students that usually have been with us for different levels of English, have studied with us before, and they are ready to take their citizenship exam. And so we offer that as well. And we have an immigration guide, and we offer like practical day-to-day English and introduction to US culture, if that's a thing. It can be complicated, but we try to address all the cultural parts and everything for the students to be ready to be United States citizens.
One of the things about the citizenship class is something that I think that makes it special is that with the citizenship class, the teacher makes sure that you feel confident at the time that you go to do the interview. It not only teaches the civic questions, but they also the teacher also teach you how to be prepared and not to be nervous, because he walked you through the whole scenario of the citizenship process. He also then, since the beginning, on what documents you may need, how to prepare until you got your certificate, and then you have to apply for the passport. And he does this follow up with all the students, so it's a great class.
And I just want to recognize, Ricardo, you're showing up a little bit early, so we'll finish up with intercambio. If you want to come back, that would be great. All right, we'll see you in a little bit. All right, any other questions for intercambio? Christina?
Yes. So the question that we've been asking all agencies as they've defended their application is, this is a competitive grant process. Our funding really hasn't increased. And the need, we know, is far outpaces the resources that we have. So if your application wasn't funded at all or wasn't fully funded, what impacts might we see in Longmont?
It's pretty straightforward for us. The average underwriting per student for us is about $1,000. So as you might imagine, that adds up pretty quickly. And our ability to serve students, there's a direct linkage to our funding. We don't hold a particular group hostage based on whether the funding's coming in or not. But I manage the budget and the finances, among other things. So I mean, unfortunately, that's our reality is, there's a lot of things that we would like to do, but we're constantly having to, prioritize which students we can get to, how many programs we can offer. And we've been very fortunate of late that we've been able to pretty much service everybody that's come to us. But it's a challenge. There's a lot of underwriting for every student that we serve.
Especially because over half of our students are from Longmont. It's I would say, our biggest program or population served.
So would we see a decrease in numbers served, or would we see an increase in what students are asked to pay, or both?
You probably wouldn't see any decrease in the number of students in the short term. We would have to look hard, though, at what resources we were devoting to our various locations and whatnot. I've been in the nonprofit world for more than 3 decades, so I have learned the hard way that you have to sort of monitor what the financial situation is. We'll be modifying our budget mid-year this year if we need to. based on how things are going with fundraising and earned income. And, that's an ongoing process. And,
Okay.
we don't want to cut services, and we'd probably be scrambling to find money elsewhere. But, we're trying to keep it positive, and we're in a growth mode. Like I said, we've been very lucky. We've been successful with what we're doing, but the number of students we serve ultimately over the long term is definitely governed by the amount of money that we can bring in.
Okay. Thank you.
Crystal.
You kind of mentioned some of them, but I guess so. My question is, how does your program in like the English learning services or learning the English language differ from some of the other programs in the community that these folks might be able to access as well?
Alma, I'll let you take that one.
Absolutely. And I experienced that as a student too, because when I arrived here to the United States, I was struggling to find a place to go to learn English, because I knew that from Range Community College, they had classes there, but it wasn't affordable for me. So I think that that's something that Intercambio offers. So what I think that is very important. It's also the service. Intercambio, it's always very welcoming to the students. They did place me in the correct level too, and the other difference is that other programs in the community, for example, here in Longmont, we have Front Range Community College and we have Open Doors, but their English level is higher than Intercambio. So we need Intercambio classes to start for the lower levels. Like I said, we can start from the very beginning with the alphabet, the numbers, and then get to a level where we can communicate in English. That's our main goal with the curriculum, to be able to be in the community by ourselves, to not need an interpreter, to be able to access the service and be part of the community, participating in the events in the community. And if once students graduate from our level 6, that is our highest level, then we cannot refer them to more academic program where they can continue to learn English if that's their goal. But as my experience and many students that I have met over the years, the Intercambio English, it's a level where you can find a good job. You can go to continue your education. So I feel like that's like one of two of the main characteristics of our classes: the accessibility of the price and the levels.
Thank you.
Jeffrey, we've got about a minute left, but go ahead and ask your question.
I think mine's a quick one. Do you offer a sliding scale? Do you take need into consideration and how much it costs for a student to participate?
We do. I'm so glad you asked that, because it dawned on me. I should have mentioned that basically our students, if they're paying full freight, they're paying about $50 a month to join us. But we scholarship quite a few people. I'm not sure what the percentage is, Alma. Maybe you know, but we scholarship quite a few people.
How much was it, Alma? We looked at that a few hours ago. I don't know. A lot of money in scholarships for those in need, or for those who have excellence attendance so that they upgrade to the next level. The last day of classes, we tell them, the people who got scholarships for the next one, because of their attendance was pretty good. So that motivates them and increases their retention rates, and they feel pretty proud of themselves when that happens. And I'm sorry, Paul, I cut you off.
No, yeah, that's a very pertinent point. Yeah, I mean, we bring in about $30,000 of earned revenue on our programs, and we probably spend about $1 million altogether on those programs. So that's the calculus. So there's a lot of fundraising and use of some of the earned revenues that we get from selling curriculum obviously support this too. But we largely underwrite this program. A lot of our students are not wealthy, as you might imagine.
Thank you. So our time is up. I will give you your 5 minutes with whatever you want to share.
Oh, wow. I think we covered a lot of ground. just I think we have a mission that's just really easy to wrap your head around. Teaching English to people that don't speak it well, and trying to get them plugged better into the community, give them a better experience, better jobs, better relationships with their neighbors, better relationships with the stores they go to, just to be the ability to communicate better. And it's a cool thing, and I've worked all over the nonprofit sector. I've never worked anywhere that was as mission driven as we are. It's incredible. The staff to every single person there. This is something that resonates for them. And as you could tell with Alma, she mentioned she's a former student. We've got other former students on the staff, which is really that's an amazing thing that they have progressed to the point where English was good enough to get plugged into being a program officer or something like that with us. And I think the amazing thing too, I've had to rely on volunteer corps considerable amount in my career. I worked in the arts quite a bit, as well in social services. And boy, we have some amazing volunteers. All of our teachers are volunteers. That's just an incredible thing. These people are really, really dedicated. You have to want to do it, because that's a big commitment. Each one of our terms is about 10 weeks long. And it's like teaching a class at a community college or something. You're making a major investment of time. So we just have a wonderful family. We have great outcomes. There's so many students, thousands of students that have benefited from what we do and have better lives. So I'd like to think that we have a great case. Hope y'all will consider it.
Thank you. See ya.
And I also wanted to add, thank you, Paul. That was inspiring for me to at this time at night. But I I just wanted to say that our curriculum is called Confidence and Connections for a reason. And when you talk about other English programs in the community, we complement each other, because some of them teaches second generation immigrants, kids. We focus on their parents. Our model is human centered in a way that we build that confidence in them. Because sometimes you kind of speak the language, but you don't have the confidence to say, I don't need an interpreter today in the bank. But what we teach our students is to gain that confidence and that self-reliance to start being self-sufficient in the US. And that we make that through our curriculum, just by practicing oral exercises, developing a community with the volunteers, going to potlucks, going to casual lunches, going to happy hours. We do a lot of gatherings just to build that community and that confidence in oneself. Just wanted to say that.
All right. Anything else? If not, thank you so much for being here tonight. Just quickly, what's going to happen next is this is our last hearing of our cycle. Our board will get me scores as soon as they can. We will meet November 14th to do our deliberations. I will reach out as soon as possible to you all, let you know whichever way it goes. And then yeah, we go before council December 10th, and they approve the recommendations. And they can change them if they want. It's their prerogative, but they typically don't. Either way, I'll be in communication with you all.
Thank you so much. We appreciate the opportunity.
All right. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
All right. I'm going to let the next group in, but again, board, if you take care of yourself, please go ahead and do that. But I'm going to let Ricardo, there's 2 Pete's here. I'm assuming one of them is. I don't know.
I ordered some food, so when the food gets
no,
here, I'm gonna have to rush and go
take care of
get it.
yourself at this time.
Yeah. But I'll stay on
sure
as long as possible.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. All right. Well, Ricardo, Pete, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Ricardo. There's 2 Pete Salases in the lobby. I don't know which one. I'll let the other one in and see which is the right one.
All right. Well, I'm here now.
All right. All right. So I'm assuming you're on your phone, Pete. This is all right. So welcome. Thank you for being here tonight. Sorry, we are running just a little bit late. We've had some great conversations with our nonprofits. We always do. Just really quickly, we're gonna I'll give you a quick rundown of how the next 15 minutes are going to go, 20 minutes. So we're going to, have a 15-minute Q&A session with you all. I've let board members know if they need to take a bio break or whatever to take care of themselves, they can do that. This is being recorded because this is a public meeting, so they can go back and watch the video if they need to. So we're going to have you introduce yourselves. The board members that are online will introduce themselves, and then we'll just jump right into the Q&A time. And I'll make sure you guys have 5 minutes at the end. You don't have to use them, but I'll make sure you have them. We don't have to use our 15 minutes if we don't need to. But yeah, why don't we start with you introducing yourselves?
Go ahead, Ricardo.
Okay, my name is Ricardo Cabrera. I'm the founder and president of My Wealth Being. And I live in Lafayette, but I've been involved in with community work for a few years and with few different organizations. I'm a past board member of the Latino Chamber and first employee before the famous Carla Collin. There was Ricardo, and I sit on the board with El Comité right now. And I'm acting executive director as well for My Wealth Being. Go ahead, Pete.
Great.
And I'm Pete Salas. I think I probably know all of you. I'm not sure, but I've been around forever, probably longer than everyone else here. I'm on the board of My Wealth Being. I sit on another board elsewhere and have served on a lot of different boards. Worked in the county commissioner's office for almost 26 years. And I spent a lot of time in Longmont. I live here in Lafayette, but I spent a lot of time in Longmont, and I manage what is now called the Latino Community Partnership Networking Group. So
awesome. All right, board members.
Good evening. My name is Crystal Prieto. I am a board member for the City of Longmont Housing and Human Services. It's a pleasure meeting you folks, and thank you for being here.
All right.
Good evening. My name is Alejandro Prieto, and I am a member of the board as well. This is my second year on the board.
All right, and Jeffrey may have stepped away for a second, and that's okay. Christina.
I'm Christina Pacheco, Human Services Director with the city, and I work with Eliberto in our department.
All right, you know me, Eliberto Mendoza, Human Services Program Manager, and I help facilitate this process for Christina and the board. So I'm going to go ahead and start the timer. Again, we don't have to use all 50 minutes of our time to question, but go ahead and start now. Board, staff, any questions for My Wealth Being? All right, Crystal.
So if I'm not mistaken, your organization applied last year, and I don't believe you were funded.
They were funded.
They were funded?
Yeah.
Okay. For some reason, I thought that your organization wasn't funded. So can you talk a little bit about changes this year that have been made, or outcomes that you're super proud of, as far as like some of the programs that you're running, even like a participant story that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I mean, I can say that so far this year we've had a tremendous success. I mean, we're in an expansion time in our nonprofit. It's our third year, so next calendar year will be our fourth year on the map, right? Working on this. So far this year, we've visited with 355 individuals through our workshops, and we've had about 150 consultations, one-on-one consults for financial counseling with about 90 unique individuals. We are starting to see return calls from people that we visited last year, earlier this year, coming back for further assistance, which is really good, actually, especially since this type of coaching that we do, takes about 6 months to a year to, with the homework that they walk out of after a meeting, and then they're calling back. We've 114 of those people have been in Longmont, And I can tell you that compared to last year, I'm just going to read out some names from the organizations that we've presented our workshops. We've done about 25 workshops so far this year. And we have Our Center, Reentry Initiative, Recovery Cafe. These are only Longmont. Wild Plum, Latino Chamber, Despertar Financiero, which is Brújula Comunitaria, Parents Involved in Education, Bridging Digital Divides, Habitat for Humanity. We're working with them. And then tomorrow, actually, we're going to do a presentation for their staff. So we'll have about 20 people in the room. And First Bank, which is not a nonprofit, but First Bank. So I can say compared to last year, this list was probably a quarter the size. So we're getting noticed. Our presentations consistently get 5 stars in our surveys, about 80%. We asked 3 basic questions in our surveys. Did you learn something new? Are you motivated to make changes? And what's the third question? I forget. But we always get about 80% plus positive reviews on our surveys. So I think we're doing something right. We started with, we have a series of presentations, and the first round we do is a basic introduction to personal finance, right? 1 hour vocabulary and concepts, and then we get called back to do the individual workshops. Once we get to the basics, we talk about budgeting or home ownership or retirement planning or whatnot. It depends on what they want to see, the customer. So we're experiencing that more this year than last year. As far as changes, I mean, we're constantly improving our presentations. Our presentation is a little different. We have a video, cartoon characters that do some of the teaching, right? And then we become guides. The presenters become guides. We're working on adding 2 new important presentations for next year, which is going to be doing your own taxes. And this is a graduate from FLTI. I don't know if you know that program. She wanted to do for Spanish-speaking people to do their own taxes. So she's driving it, and she's going to hang her shingle with us. And the second one's going to be estate planning. So we're partnering with a lawyer that's going to help us do estate planning for the community as well. We're also starting our program, which is the train the trainer type thing. We're going to call them Certified My Wealth Being Trainers. So it'll allow community members to be able to do presentations, and then we can focus more on, sales and admin, right, if you will, sales and marketing. And that's what we've done different and improved since last year. Pete, did I miss something?
No, I just wanted to let everybody know that as Ricardo said, we've been expanding. It's our 3rd year, but our first year was really getting around organizing and getting it all in place. Last year was a pretty full year, and so we've made a lot of progress. People need to also know that we don't have staff. We don't pay anybody at this point, and one of our goals as a board is to look at how we might generate a little more revenue to actually have a paid staff. Right now, the reality is Ricardo's doing most of the work. He's helped formulate everything. As a board, we support that, work with the events, and starting in January, we're gonna have our board retreat in December, and what we're going to do at that point is have our board members learn how to do the presentations, so that we as a board, I've sat through several of them, and of course, I think some of you know I did intercultural training for 17 years. I'm familiar with the aspects of in-person training. So, but that's our desire, is to have at least if the board be able to present. So take a little bit off of Ricardo's plate so that he can deal with a little bit more of the administrative stuff. But our goal really is to look at next year how we might have paid staff going forward, and to handle some of the stuff that needs to be done administratively. And we can have volunteers and board pick up the slack in terms of presentations. But the presentation is pretty solid. And as Ricardo said, I've sat in on several of them and have watched. I actually spoke to BVSD, to one of their liaison groups, found it all very interesting, and they are considering how they might incorporate some of this into their. One of the members at BVSD actually wanted to know if we could do some for youth, for high school kids, 'cause they're not learning it. I didn't learn it. And that's one of the feedback we get from participants often is, that they ought to really be, this is stuff people should get in school. So until that time, we're going to pick up the slack and work with as many people as we can in our community. Ricardo mentioned working with some of the groups. What we found is that a lot of the human service agencies really want for their clients who are getting assistance to learn the ins and outs of financial literacy. So that's a big deal, and we feel it will help those agencies and their clients manage their own finances better, which makes them in fact more efficient and hopefully save the agencies some money as well. So.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ricardo?
I have a couple. You mentioned, hi Pete, you mentioned Boulder Valley School District. Any partnership with St. Vrain Valley, and what would that impact have on students in the city of Longmont?
We currently don't have anything specifically with them, but they're definitely on our radar. It would be an incredible win for us and a great help for the community if we could get an in with them and and start offering these services to them. Yeah.
Okay.
I think the biggest obstacle is getting the bandwidth to do work with some of the groups. It just so happened that the parent group and BVSD had heard and wanted some info. So,
Got it.
but yeah, if we can,
Okay.
that's
Yeah.
a good.
And so
But-
the other question that we're asking all agencies is, this is a competitive grant process. The resources that we have, the need that we have is far outpacing the resources that we have. What would be the impact that we would see in Longmont if this application were not fully funded or wasn't funded at all? What would we see specifically in Longmont?
Yikes, that's a tough question. I mean, we've been doing everything practically at no fee or no charge for anybody. I mean, we are growing our presence so fast that it's, it would limit us on the amount of time and effort that we would be able to have to offer the same product. For example, our center, we're working on a pilot project with them to have office hours at their location, so they can, knowing that they also have less funding, their solution is let's increase education, specifically with finance education. So we're thinking about having office hours, about having making it part of their process. So if they're going to give somebody money, they're going to say, well, you have to take this class as well. So there's more bang for their buck. So that's going to increase, that alone would be a nice impact. I don't know that they'll have the money to fund or to pay for our time, but we're hoping that a combination of everything will allow us to move forward and really have a paid staff. I mean, so far we've been doing everything, as volunteers. And as Pete mentioned, we need bandwidth, we need some help.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's the other thing that we're really looking at is how organizations are leveraging the work that they're doing with other organizations. So thank you.
Yep. It's a tough one. And I particularly pay attention, as I did when I worked at the county, and I actually been following the commissioners around and getting their listening to people show up who are concerned. our and with our organization, we are virtually the only group. The county does a little bit of this, but really there aren't any others that provide this particular type of service. And as Ricardo says, we can supplement through our trainings nonprofits work that they're doing, and it really does help leverage some of their stuff, and we all benefit. So yeah, but the impact would be just like other organizations would be severe in our part. So we don't get that much. So
Yeah.
whatever comes off, it hurts a little bit more.
Any other questions for My Wealth Being? If not, I will stop our timer. And Ricardo and Pete, I'll start your 5 minutes to share whatever you want to share with the board.
Okay. Yeah, I don't, I pretty much said what I needed to say. Like I said, we are still in the process of recruiting board members. We got a couple of new board members in the last couple of months. We're looking at shaping our board so that the board members that we bring on add value and bring their expertise, particularly as it relates to finance and find not only financial knowledge, but in terms of being able to leverage financial contributions and raise our contributors so that we and that because as you know that's we can't survive on municipal and county funding, and so we're looking at how we might be able to expand our private funding and always seeking grants, but we're hoping that we can get some people on board who through their contacts can help us raise money that would help our cause. So that's the other aspect that we're working on.
Awesome. Ricardo?
Yeah, you know, it's the work that we do is unique. It's unique because it's a precursor to everything. And one thing we haven't done is we haven't gone out and tried to create programs where we alone are searching for our participants. We've been partnering with other nonprofits and relying on their need for us to be able to help them further their missions. And this, you know, at some point, this includes the cities. I mean, this course that we do would be ideal for city employees of all levels because they need it too. And at some point, when we're ready, meaning when we have the bandwidth, because we're ready, but whenever we have the bandwidth, I would love to start offering this course not only to nonprofits, which is, by the way, it's a strategic starting point where we're purposely searching for other nonprofits, and first we offer this course to their employees, and only then, if they like it and they think it's worth their time for their participants, will invite us forward. We have 100% win ratio on that one so far. But really, our next growth spurt, once we've fulfilled this first stage, is to go after, employees of city employees, county employees, union, other people that have the need for this course, and it's not there. I'm proud of the products that we have. They've been improved to the point where we get good response and good feedback. We're working on an app, and we should have the very first. It's called an MVP, the minimum viable product. We actually are doing the minimum viable product, which is a very little app that will allow us to help individuals start visualizing what their efforts could be as far as personal finance. Like, how long will it take you to pay off your debt, and how long to save an emergency fund? And if you keep saving for 20 years, how much will you have at retirement? Just motivational things that once you see them, it helps you either make a change or call for help, which is the thing that differentiates us from other individuals that do this kind of training, is that we do offer one-on-one coaching, and that's what makes the difference compared to other organizations to do something similar. So it's exciting. It's exciting to see the growth. and how well received it is, and the future for this program.
All right.
And with your help, we hope we can make it for forever and ever, because this is one of those programs that should be here for, for a long time. And my personal goal is to make this something that, once I'm gone, once Pete's gone, this thing will go forever.
Thank you. Well, just to give you a quick rundown of what's going to happen next, this is the last hearing night for our board. They will provide me with scores, and we meet November 14th to do our deliberation, and then we go before council on December 10th to share our recommendations. I give everybody this caveat. Ultimately, council can change any recommendation that we do. They typically don't because they trust us, but they could.
Yes.
So yeah, and so but even then, I will contact you right after November 14th and let you know what the recommendations are. Okay.
Very good.
Gilberto, I have one question for you.
Yeah.
Where did you go find that apartment you're in?
Oh, it's an electronic apartment. It's not real. I'm actually in my office.
I didn't know your office was Oceanside.
He has a pretty snazzy office.
It'd be nice if I had this office at the city, but no, this is just a virtual background. So
They pay them city folks pretty well, don't they?
that would be nice.
We wish. We wish. Yeah. Okay. Thank you all. It's been
Thank you. Have a good night.
good to visit with everybody. Take care.
Bye. Thanks.
you,
Take care.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
All right, like I said,
Good night,
board, you
Pete.
can take care of yourself if you need to. So Mark Calvin, the art center, is here and ready to go. Go ahead and let him in. Yeah, it's been a long night. So, all right. All right, Mark, can you hear us?
Yep, gotcha.
Yeah, so it has been a wonderful evening of great conversations. I think we're all a little bit tired, but we are coming toward the end, and thank you for joining us tonight. I will do. You've done this many times, but I'll do our caveat as I always do. This is a public hearing and is being recorded. We will do quick introductions, let you introduce yourself, our board introduce themselves, and then we will get right into our 15 minutes of Q&A. We don't have to use that whole 15 minutes, but we'll have it, and then we'll give you 5 minutes to share whatever you want to share. Tonight, of course, we're looking at your basic needs program. We already did your early childhood program with another group of board members, but just go ahead and have you introduce yourself to this group of board members, and then we'll introduce ourselves, and we'll get right into it.
Sure. Good evening. My name is Mark Howell, and I am the Executive Director for the Our Center, a family resource center serving the St. Vrain Valley School District.
All right, board, you want to introduce yourself real quickly?
Good evening. My name is Crystal Prieto. I am a board member for the City of Longmont Housing Human Services. It's good to see you, Mark.
Good to see you.
Good evening, Mark. It's Alejandro Prieto here, board member, second year on the board.
Nice to meet you.
Hey, Mark.
do you know? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead,
Sorry,
Christina.
Jeffrey.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. Hey, Mark, my name is Jeffrey Boring. I'm a brand new advisory board member. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
And you know me, so
Good to see
that was
you.
quick. Bye.
Yep.
Yep, and you know me as well. All right, let's go ahead and get started with our 15-minute time for questions. Board, staff, any questions for Mark?
I think just the standard questions that we've asked you in the past for your last hearing. What would be the impact to Longmont if you weren't funded or were underfunded?
Sure. Well, I think the cat is probably out of the bag, if you will, with the county. There's been a lot of cuts at the county, necessity cuts that they've had to make. And the Our Center specifically, we received a 30% cut in our contract. And that's close to $250,000. And, as a result, we're going to have to make some cuts to offset that. We just got done going through our annual audit, and we still are operating a very lean 12% overhead. So it's not like I have a lot of cuts that I can be making from administrative supports for our organization. So unfortunately, any other revenue cuts that we may see in the coming year, coming years, the only way we can work around that is contraction of services. So it just means less services and supports that we can provide to Longmont for anyone who's coming to us. Probably most specifically when it comes to rent and utility assistance. That's the most expensive service that we provide the community. And that's where we're starting to find ourselves falling short. We have about 6 months of reserves put aside for this moment. And I'm not sure what that looks like come about August of next year. So unfortunately, I think, unless we're finding other ways to offset this, which we're working very hard to do, cuts will have to come from service provision, unfortunately.
Thanks for covering that, Mark. I think it's important not only for us to hear, but for the community to also hear that when this is posted on YouTube.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Yep, you're welcome.
Crystal.
So Mark, you guys, like our center is the Family Resource Center for Longmont, and there is no other resource essentially like the R Center for folks in need of any basic needs. Can you talk to me about any up and coming new programming or any type of just programming that you guys are excited about, or shifts and changes happening right now at the R Center that we might not know about?
Sure. Yeah, thank you for asking. So, there's some good things that we're working on. We've had some successes recently, and one of the most recent successes that we've had is with our community market or our food pantry. Again, just another one of those services that we're providing where we don't have enough resources to keep up with the community need. And earlier this year, we had to make a very difficult decision to reduce the number of visits a family could make from weekly to only 3 times a month. So basically, we reduced their visits by 12 a year. And that's pretty impactful for several of the families that we work with. But we, through some great discussions with Community Food Share, we've discovered some stores and grocery recovery where food was leaving our community and it was going to Community Food Share, and it was still being distributed to other food banks, which is great. But we were calculating that there was 200,000 to 300,000 pounds of food leaving Longmont's and not necessarily supporting Longmont. So through some great dialogue with Community Food Share, we asked, how can we keep that food here in Longmont? And basically the biggest obstacle, well, 2 obstacles, but the biggest one that we had to overcome was we had to have a vehicle to transport this. Right now we have volunteers doing it. And the volume of food that we'd be talking about going to like Sam's to pick up would be like 3, 4, 5 trips in someone's trunk. So we started a campaign October 1st, and actually this morning we reached our goal of raising $80,000. We have signed a contract on a transit van that's retrofitted with a refrigeration system, and it's going to be on its way here in about 2 or 3 weeks. So we anticipate, because of this and the cooperation with Community Food Share, that one, we'll be able to sometime in January go back to weekly visits, and then hopefully be able to help an additional 30 to 40 families a week with that food, which is huge because a lot of families come to the market to save money on their groceries so they can reallocate some of their money to rent or utilities. So for us, that's been a great game changer for us and our services. And then something else we're hoping to continue to expand, and we'll see with the challenges. Fortunately, we have 1 more year of ARPA funds from the county to fund this, but we've really been working on our 2 generational work and supporting parents and kids. And currently we have 3 Circle of Parents support groups. 1 is in English and 2 are in Spanish. And we just started the 2nd Spanish speaking group about a month ago. And we're real excited about continuing to move forward with that 2 generational work at the Hour Center. So those are kind of the 2 big things right now that, we're hanging our hat on during these tough times, saying this is the positive that's happening.
Thank you for sharing that example of your collaboration with Community Food Share, Mark. That is exactly what Eliberto and I have been trying to accomplish through these community engagement meetings that we've had with our nonprofits. That is just such a great example and great work. So happy that that is happening.
Yes, we are too. We are too.
Just get some water. Any other questions for Mark? Jeffrey.
Yeah, Mark, could you talk a little bit about your housing and utility voucher program? How many individuals participate in that? Do you have enough funding to cover those needs? Could you just help me understand that program a little bit better?
Sure. So to kind of give you a context of kind of where things have been and where things are looking to go. So prior to the pandemic, we supported approximately 750 households a year with about $300,000 to $350,000 worth of financial assistance. And it was probably 2/3, 1/3 rent versus utility assistance. And then the pandemic happened. And we were very fortunate that a lot of federal dollars, the ARPA dollars, the America Rescue Plan Act dollars, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, so ERAP dollars is what we've called them. We had millions of dollars infused into our communities, and through partnerships early on with Eliberto and the city, we were able to capitalize on rent assistance to help more families because we were seeing households where families, maybe one parent was losing their job, were being furloughed, the kids were at home, for virtual learning, so they couldn't leave their kid. Their kid wasn't old enough to stay home alone, and they didn't have maybe local family or friends to help. So we saw a huge spike in the need for rental assistance specifically, but through those funding dollars, we all the way into 2022, we were serving about 1,600 families in the tune of just under $5 million.
Wow.
And unfortunately, that need is still doing this. And the ARPA dollars, we've spent the last of our ARPA dollars about a month ago. ERAP dollars were exhausted January of 2023. So as the funding went like this, the needs are literally continuing to rise. So right now, year to date, we're probably at about 500 to 600 families and about $700,000 of financial assistance. So we'll probably be right around $1 million, a little bit short. And with our reserve accounts, when we put aside, we can continue at that clip for 6 more months going into 2025 before we run out of reserves for that. And when I say all that too, that's not meeting the community needs. I mean, we're still having to say no to a lot of households and a lot of families just because we don't have the resources. Where back in COVID, there was enough money that it was a very, very rare occasion that we had to deny someone or tell them what we couldn't assist. So those numbers I give you is not reflective of the true community need. It's greater. We've already had to make difficult decisions in regards to who we can serve, how much we can serve, kind of what are the parameters around serving those families. So I hope that kind of helps and gives you a real big context there.
It does, and it just, but it also prompts some other thoughts. Like, how do you decide who gets served and who doesn't if there's not enough resources for everybody?
Sure. So a few of the decisions that we've had to make, and they're not fully in alignment, but they're pretty close, like EFA and Sister Carmen. So they're the other family resource centers serving Boulder County, and we work really closely together. But some of the decisions that we've made and kind of in alignment with them is one, before we didn't have a residency, a length of residency rule in place. Basically, if you just moved into the community, we would assist, or if we could. But unfortunately, we were finding a lot of people coming in and trying to use us to establish themselves in the community when really our community and our funders want us to first prioritize those who are in our community to remain stable and not have to make difficult decisions of moving, et cetera. So one, we put in a 90-day residency rule before you can access services. The one that's always a static is you have to show proof of residency in our service area, which again is the St. Vrain Valley School District with the exception of Erie, but also includes Lyons, Riverside, Raymond, and Allens Park, kind of heading towards Estes Park there in the mountains. And then the third
requirement that we have is that you just have to show that you're housed. So again, we have some great partners. Hope is a magnificent partner working in the lane of individuals experiencing homelessness. So you have to be housed to access our services. We tried for a while to kind of intermix the two populations or groups, if you will, and it did not work well. A lot of families just didn't feel safe coming, and we saw less and less families at the center. So again, working with Hope, we said we got to back completely out of this and focus on this family development work. So those are the three main Oh, and I would also say too that we're capping things at $1,000. So we can only assist you up to $1,000, and we need to see that you can be sustainable after that. So if we're going to invest in you, we want to make sure you're investing yourself, and you're not just saying, I need $1,000. I don't have a plan. Just give me the check, please. So.
Thank you. That helps a lot.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, Crystal, and then Alejandro.
One question. So you talked a little bit about like community need just keeps going up, Mark, and the resource centers are really having a hard time meeting that. Can you talk about, and especially like with the funding cuts that you took from the county, could you talk a little bit about what your grants and fundraising department is doing to kind of combat that? As far as like outreach, trying to raise more money, like what are some of the things happening in that department?
Well, we have a strong development department. My development director has been with us for about 26 years now. She's phenomenal. And so, they're always out there looking to find new grant opportunities. We're always out there, trying to meet with groups and community members to talk about exactly what we're talking about this evening. One really great example is Christina handed the baton to me to be the chair of the Family Resource Network. So I am now the chair of that safety net group. And tomorrow over at Clinica, we are hosting a call to action to the community, and we've invited the press there. And so, it's not about the Hour Center, but I will be there leading and being a part of that. So that's one of those ways that we're trying to get the message out, not just for us, but the entire safety net. Because again, as you were saying, we're a main part of it. We're not the only part. I mean, we need all of us to be strong. So, some of this communication that we're trying to dive into is for the entire safety net. The HSA, the Human Services Alliance, they're looking at communication strategies. So we're right now working on developing our message and how we can get that message out, whether it's through letters to the editor, whether it's these pressers that are going to happen in the community, through our own internal communications. But yeah, we're basically just ramping up the successful work we've had to yet another level.
All right, Alejandro, you got 1 minute, so ask
All
your
right.
question.
Okay, really fast. First of all, I want to thank you very much. When I got to Longmont, I was in that bracket that didn't make enough for food stamps, and didn't make enough to feed my children, and too much for food stamps. So I want to thank the Hour Center for being there for me and my family. And this was the time when you still serviced, gave warm meals to the unhoused community as well. I had no problems with it. My children, we're from New York, so we're all right. We're built different. Anyways, that it brings up this critical issue that we're having in Longmont. There's families that are falling through the gaps, that are families that are out there unhoused as well. Hope does not service families. And EFA is in Boulder, and if they're not in Boulder, they don't get serviced by EFA. So what I know you're strapped for cash. I understand this, but where does the Hour Center stand when it comes to families that are unhoused?
Sure. So that's a great question. I should have clarified a little. We still will work with families who are unhoused. We don't focus on single adults or adults. But the problem with that too is there's very limited resources out there for unhoused families. There's some work being done out there. There is some housing. EFA does have a housing unit here in Longmont, but as you can imagine, a lot of those transitional lower income housings are full, and the wait lists go on for a long, long time. And that's the issue at hand right now, is there is very limited we can do. We're approaching the winter. We can provide some hoteling assistance, and hopefully we'll be able to do more with partnering with the city. There was some money put aside, and we've been having some really good conversations with Christina and Eliberto in regards to at least brief hoteling during severe weather events. But you're hitting on a huge gap in the system that I don't have that answer for. We'll meet with those families, but we have very limited resources and referrals that we can provide them, unfortunately.
But basic needs are met though, right? Like food and hygienes. Can they use the Hour Center for that?
If they have kids, and a lot of times we may have someone from St. Vrain advocating for them, or for another basic needs provider, we'll sit down and make some exceptions in those cases, yes.
So our time is up. Sorry, again, great conversations. Mark, I'll give you your 5 minutes. You don't have to use them all, but I'll start the clock right now.
Sure. Yeah, I think you guys, you asked great questions. You're kind of spot on, and with your questions and your observations, and really, again, it's just it's not just the Hour Center, but the safety net as a whole. This is kind of what we've been waiting for. There's an ARPA cliff that's happening. There's funding struggles that are happening. I know Christina and Eliberto are trying to plan for what may or may not be in the future. This is, I think, going to be a bumpy road. In the Hour Center, we anticipated this was going to happen sometime. We just didn't know when. And now the waves are crashing to the shore. And we're going to survive this. We're going to be fine. Unfortunately, part of that though means contraction of services if and when needed. But we're also going to do everything, to your point, Crystal, to make sure that doesn't happen, through fundraising, through grant research, through communicating with the community, starting tomorrow at that presser. So I appreciate the relationship that we have with the City of Longmont and with Christina and Eliberto specifically. And I know we'll tackle this, and we're going to do the best that we can with what we have moving forward. So, whatever support you all choose to provide us, we appreciate that, and we'll make the most of it. So I appreciate the considerations.
All right. Thank you very much, Mark. Just really quickly in the last minute, because we're running behind now. I will go ahead, and so this is our last hearing tonight. Board will get me their scores. We meet November 14th for doing our deliberations and recommendations, and I will get with you all right after that. And then Christina and I will present to the board, to the council, on December 10th. Quick caveat: they typically don't change our recommendations, but they can. So just gotta let you know that. All right. Have a great night.
All right. Thanks, guys. Hang in there. You got to be getting towards the end, so hang in there.
Yeah, we only got 3 more after this. So we see the end of the tunnel here. So thank you, Mark.
All right, guys. Take care. Have a good night.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
Good night.
I've been having some technical issues with the next group, but they finally got in. I've been emailing invites over and over. Just hopefully one work, but we finally got everybody in. So sorry for the technical difficulties, Greg and Emily. I appreciate your patience with us. Can you hear us, Greg?
Yes. Just getting back.
Yeah. No. I'm
okay.
Sorry. Sorry for the.
Sorry about that. I don't know what's going on. I'll have to get my wizard to look at that. I do apologize.
Yeah, but we got it. We got it. So first of all, thank you for being here tonight. Appreciate your time. I'm just going to go over a couple of logistical things. One, this is a public hearing because I have board members here, advisory board members here, so it is being recorded and will be on the City of Longmont's YouTube page at a certain point. Two, the way it's going to work tonight is we're going to have 15 minutes of Q&A. The board has read your application. Oh, Emily says she has no audio. You can't hear us?
I can hear you fine.
Huh.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you
Yeah.
fine. Emily, can you try
Emily
talking?
cannot. Let me chat her and see if she can go out and come back in.
Okay. So, anyway, 50 minutes of Q&A. We'll let the board, we'll let you introduce yourself, and then the board, and then we will do the, give you 5 minutes at the end. So why don't we start with you introducing yourself, Greg, and then we'll see if Emily can join again. And then we'll get started.
Okay, well, first of all, it's an honor to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you all, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your life to evaluate us and listen to our story and ask questions. I'm Greg Getch. I'm the founder of Qualified Listeners, which is a veteran and family resource hub. I started this in January of 2017, simply to train combat veterans to listen to veterans so that veterans had somebody safe to talk to who wouldn't judge them. And what's really happened is it's morphed into way more than that. We do many, many things. If you read what we do or some of the pieces, we do an awful lot of things. We basically do the things the VA does not. The 60% of veterans are not in the VA. So we have a lot of what I friendly call free range veterans out there who have no idea that there's a lot of people who want to help them and that there's things available to them. So that's kind of our role. We ask veterans what they need. And from there we've grown tremendously. So
all right. So why
I
don't we
could go
let
on for hours.
Yeah, let's let the board introduce themselves, and then we'll go ahead and get started with questions and answers.
Hello, my name is Crystal Prieto. I'm a board member for the Housing and Human Services Board. Thank you so much for the work that you do for our vets.
You're welcome.
Hey, my name is Alejandro Prieto. I'm also a member of the board. This is my second year on the board. Thank you for your service. I'm also a veteran. I'm one of your 60%.
Okay. What branch?
Regular Army, 2nd Infantry Division.
Okay. Navy guy here.
Hi, Greg. My name is Jeffrey Boring. I'm a relatively new member of the advisory board. I've just been on the board now for about 9 months. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Christina Pacheco. I'm Human Services Director for the city, and I work with Eliberto in our department.
All right, and I am Eliberto Mendoza, Human Services Program Manager, and I facilitate this process for the board and Christina. I'm going to go ahead and start the timer. Hopefully Emily can I just sent her the invite again. Hopefully she can join. This is the first time we ever had issues with this, so it's kind of weird. But why don't we start with questions from the board for Greg?
I'm trying.
All right. So Crystal and then Alejandro.
Greg, could you talk to us a little bit about the services that your organization offers to our vets that they're not getting anywhere else here in the community?
Yes, first of all, it's listening. I mean, I started this to be a listening program, and we do that all day, every day. And nobody that I'm aware of is focused on that. And secondly, we've discovered a bit inadvertently, but that transportation is a great big issue to veterans. I mean, it's if somebody's over 60 or permanently disabled, there's lots of resources available to them. But if they're just a veteran, then there's not much available to them. The VA does some transports, but they're very strict on where they go. They will only take you to a VA facility. And we will pick people up at home, take them to where they need to go, not just medical, although most are, and then take them home. And it's everything we do is free to the veterans. And we do that by volunteers. We have, I think it's 11 or 12 people who will volunteer to drive, pick up people in their car and take them to where they need to go. Then we have 2 people who are certified or trained to drive our wheelchair van that we got a grant for earlier this year to pick up veterans in wheelchairs. So we launched that in May and we've done 109, I think. I looked this morning. And we also transport spouses. Then we also partner with some contractors when veterans lose mobility for whatever reason. We will go in and take out a bathtub, for example, and put in a walk-in shower so they can take care of that. If we have veterans who have dangerous carpet or other health and safety issues, we will take care of that for them. And there's some money we have, but usually we partner with other organizations to help fund those kinds of things and pay the contractors and buy the materials. Those are the key things, I guess. We do lots of other stuff, but those are what we spend most of our time doing.
Thank
Is
you.
that, of course.
Alejandro and then Jeffrey.
So the initial founding of this organization was surrounded to us combat veterans to have a battle buddy to listen to us here in the world. What about non-combat veterans? Are you serving them? And also, you mentioned that you're not as strict as the VA. I know that a lot of brothers and sisters can't use the VA because of their other than honorably discharged or lack of holding on to a DD-214. You know, some of our brothers and sisters are out in the street and, you know, it's hard to even hold on to an ID. So I'm wondering, do you require proof of a DD-214 or are they just welcome and you'll still lend them your ears?
Yeah, there's about 3 different questions in there. We will work with any veteran who can prove service. We need to prove that they are a veteran. And that can be a VA card, that can be a VFW card, American Legion card, or we can get them in touch with a VSO to get a DD-214. But we say we honor and support veterans and we need proof of that. We don't care about discharge status. When I started this, I thought, well, my goodness, being a VFW guy, we're going to stick with honorably discharged people. And I found that very quickly was not appropriate. And because it's not all the veterans' fault on how they got that. So we'll take care of anybody who can prove service. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes, very much. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
All right, Jeffrey. And by the way, I have Emily on the phone. She could not get back into the meeting. Had some weird glitch.
Greg, I had 2 questions. One, it sounds like you're the founder of this organization and it's been around for about 7 years. So I just want to give you a chance to explain kind of the impetus for the organization. How did you come up with this idea? Are there other models like this out there? That's question number 1. Question number 2 is, tell me a little bit about your drivers. I think I read in the application that there's a questionnaire or a series of questions they ask. So you're getting the passengers to open up a little bit. Tell me about that experience.
Okay. Well, to start out with the why of qualified listeners, it started to listen to people, and the objective was to reduce the number of suicides. And that comes from my experience. I served in the Vietnam time, 1968 to 1972, in the United States Navy on destroyer gunships, went to Vietnam in 69, 71, and 72. And what we did was go up and down the coast providing inland gun support. So clearly a combat veteran, but it's a completely different combat veteran than a Marine or an Army person who was on the ground with experience. So I would never compare that. And got out in November 1972 and came back to a country who hated us and hated the country, basically. And I just hid it. I just ignored being a veteran. Nobody that I